Welcome to the Visual Cast. Coming at you from California, I'm your host, Alon Hammer, aka Rem. The Visual Cast is a hybrid podcast where we sit down with some of the best, most interesting, and most exciting visual artists from all over the world. We chat about life, art, visuals, software, hardware, systems, crystals, alien downloads, spirituality, and catalysts. It's essentially a massive nerd out. But the guests also do a set where we dive into their computer and get an up-and-close look at how they make art, how they perform art, or really anything they want to share with us. I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. To support us, please like and subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and leave us a review on Spotify. Now, without any further ado, here's the Visual Cast.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Alrighty, welcome to the Visual Cast. Today we have a very special guest, a really lovely human being, a super masterful, immersive, and interactive visual artist, and a super fascinating guy that I had the pleasure of meeting in this past edition of Space Safari in Belgium. And I'm super excited to talk to him. Welcome to the podcast, Innocent Copiter. Copiters.
Hey, Alan. Yes, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, my friend.
It's an honor to be on your show. We're watching it for quite some time. Not everything. It's long videos, but sometimes I sit down, I put it on. Sometimes when I'm cooking, put it on the
Hell yeah.
laptop. And,
You get a little bit of cooking some food, and you can cook some visuals in the background in your mind. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, just
Get
absorb
the
it.
gears moving. Hell yeah. Well, I'm happy to hear that you're a fan as well. I actually knew that because when we met, you actually, I think you there's two really funny stories when we met. One we're definitely going to talk about, the guy that was tripping. But then also I think you recognized me for my podcast and not for the visuals per se. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's never
Yes.
really, hasn't happened as much. And I thought that was pretty cool. So I do want to start off just looking a little bit at your work. I found you have a nice reel here that kind of shows off a little bit of your work, just to kind of get a little bit of an understanding of the stuff that you do and kind of get us into a cool place. Is that Tool that I see there?
Cool.
Was that Tool that effect or no? Is that TouchDesigner? Is this in
No,
TouchDesigner?
it's not a designer. Yes.
Oh wow, you have to show me how you do that one because that's one of those effects that in Tool that is like by default and it's a super nice effect. Yeah, so I mean, we met in Space Safari. You made a super cool interactive and immersive installation right next to the dance floor, and it was super cool to kind of see and feel that, the art vibe that it was on the dance floor. And there was this amazing story of this guy who came up to me before we had met because we kind of talked when we were setting up and hello, and I was excited to see what you were doing. And obviously, when doing work, there's always you think you're going to have time to meet and talk to people, but really you're just focused on getting everything to work. But one of the nights, some guy came up to the VJ booth and he was very heavily on psychedelics. And he was just like, everything's connected. How is it that the dance floor is connected to the installation and the music? And I'm like, at first I didn't understand what he was talking about, and then I realized that he meant what he thought was that your interactive installation was connected to the visuals and that everything was connected to the music and that we in the VJ booth were controlling everything and that we were controlling all the stuff in the dance floor and everything. And, and I tried convincing him that he was wrong, but he was like, oh, you're tricking me. He thought that I was lying to him, some mass conspiracy was happening. And then when we had a chance to talk and communicate, you were like, yeah, the same guy came to me and talked to me about this stuff. And I was just like, okay, this guy, oh, that's super nice. This guy is like obviously on some like heavy conspiracy trip. But I thought it was cool because it means that like what you made was in sync with the environment, and and what I was doing was in sync with the music and the environment, and everything was kind of in sync. And that's like a pretty big compliment at the end of the day, that like even though everything is kind of separate, right? Like the music is one thing, the visuals is one thing, the lighting is one thing, the LEDs is one thing, the lasers is one thing, your interactive installation is one thing, but somehow they're all kind of talking together, and that's kind of the beauty of these. Oh, that's cool too. That's kind of the beauty of these festivals and art in a general sense. I wanted to ask you kind of like, for you, what is that connection? What is that connection between like, okay, you're making an immersive interactive installation on a dance floor where there's people and there's dancing and there's music and there's visuals and there's lights. What is the like driving force for you in that sense?
Oof, big question. Mostly like on a basic level, I just like making things. And I like the technical side of it a lot. But I also want to apply it like in an environment or with a community where, where the absurdness or the chaos of the stuff that I make is being appreciated. So then it becomes a question of what does it add to the event or the festival. And my dream for this thing, and I hope that this year I can build something more like that, is that it was like a whole closed tent with places to lie down on the floor with pillows and everything. Or when it becomes too much, they can also like just
Relax.
go a bit there, but still stay connected to the music, still be like part of the party. And it became a bit more Spartan. We had this tent and limited time, limited space, limited equipment, and
limited budget, especially in Space
yes,
Safari.
and that's an ideal placement compared to the map of the festival, because a lot of people didn't even know it existed at the end.
Right.
So many people at the main stage, you have to be adventurous to venture beyond that crowd of people there.
Totally,
to the other side.
totally, for sure. Also, you would just imagine like, okay, I'm in a dance floor. Like, what else is there gonna be here? Like it's unlikely there's gonna be anything else.
Some wander in, some totally didn't get it. Some were like standing in front of the screen, waving their arms, and nothing is responding because the Kinect is hanging behind them. But they think that they are doing stuff. They are like totally in it. And, they think they are playing with all these particles, but they are not. And then some other people
we could show it a little bit as well.
pull them and show how go here, and then having this discovery element was also part of the goal of the installation, to not really explain it or make it too obvious. This one also, some people treated it like a touch screen, like barely touching it and then thinking nothing happens. And it was Lycra, so you really could push your hand inside there.
Yeah, it's super cool. And it's it's just having these type of experiences on the dance floor are so valuable because it gives people the ability to immerse themselves and be interactive, whereas like a dance floor is an interactive space in general, right? Like there is interaction between the music, between the lights, between the visuals, and then between the dancers, between the people, whether it's like a smile, whether it's a cool dance move, whether it's it could be anything. It could be like just funny stuff. People do funny stuff, it's like there's immersion and interaction, and then to have something that's made specifically for that, I think is very valuable. And a lot of I would say good festivals, or not necessarily big or small, just like good festivals that understand this, they put an emphasis on this interactive art. I think that's a really, really nice thing to have. So I'd love to kind of well, before actually we go back into your past, there was something interesting that I read on your profile and your about page, that you consider your work somewhere between conceptualism and technical innovation. Excuse me. Um, how did you develop this intersection? Was there a catalyst? Was there a moment? Is it just a general observation of kind of the way that you perceive things? Give us a little bit of insight into that.
Um, can you repeat again? Because the way you voiced it, I don't remember where ever I ever wrote that. It's on the edge
Between
of a.
somewhere between conceptualism and technological innovation.
Okay. I don't remember writing that or who wrote it, but could be out there. No, like I think it refers to being this like one foot in the shoe of an artist and one foot in the shoe of a programmer or something.
Yes, exactly.
So like I like to make the results, but also enjoy the process behind it, which
Mm.
isn't necessarily visible or obvious from the results.
Mm.
Like the part where only fellow Touchdesigner users are going to be like, well, okay, you use this and that, but nobody else will care. But for me, the very fun part is the geeking out part. And then there's the exploring part where you just, because it's generative and you kind of make systems and they generate stuff, and then you become a curator and you start seeing how you feel about the stuff it's creating and trying to push it in direction and end up with something that isn't necessarily what you want to make, but more like this.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because that's kind of like the intersection is a very interesting one, right? I mean, I have this a lot in my life as well, between the content or the creation of the content, the visual aspect of things, and the way it works and the way it's, developed, let's say. And then there's another intersection between how people perceive the thing that they're experiencing, whether it's just watching visuals or whether it's them actually interacting with it, right, and being immersed by it. And those two things are like not mutually exclusive, but they can also like be completely different things. You could make the craziest 3D render, and like you said, like, yeah, everybody's geeking out about it, but then the person on the dance floor just watches it and is like, holy shit. They're not thinking necessarily about like where it comes from or what took to make it, but they're being blown away by all of that as well. And then in an interactive piece, it's kind of like almost multiplied, or it's exponential, because their interaction or their feedback with the piece is creating the piece itself, right? Like there's that feedback loop of whether it's a Kinect or a LiDAR or a touchscreen or a sensor of some sort, whatever it is. Even audio, there's there's a feedback of them being the art or them controlling the art. And then it's almost like your intention is almost like alive, right? It's not that it doesn't matter anymore, because you can still infuse very heavy intention in something and it could be extremely abstract, but it's now alive. It now has a life of its own. It now has like an almost like an entity kind of vibe to it, because it's being manipulated, transcended and feedbacked by another person, B, the whole experience that is involved in it. And I think that's kind of like where the magic happens. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's always a surprise. Also, like it's like you have to give it out of hand. Like you
Yes.
know the experience, you have the idea what it should be like, what you think it's supposed to be used like, and everything, and then you put real people in there who don't know anything, and yes, it's like when you see people who never played video games before play a game, they might not know how to do it, but they can do surprising things that the game designers don't even think about, right?
Right, for sure.
And this immersive is also, it's a bit like very simple games without a real goal or anything,
Hmm.
just like controls that you try to bring into reality so
Mm,
that people can kind of in reality be inside the virtual reality.
yeah. Yeah, the physical and the virtual, or like a mirror into a different experience or different space. And I think at the end, when we get into a little bit more esoteric or a little bit more, um, mystical kind of ideas, there is something there. There's something there, especially on a dance floor, where that is kind of the um, maybe like overarching goal, right? To kind of be in a multi dimension or be in an altered space of consciousness. But we'll save that for the end because that is a very broad topic and one that I'm sure we can talk about for hours. So before we get there and before we get to other places, I'd love to talk to you about your, growing up. Did you grow up in Belgium? I know you're from Belgium, but did you grow up there? What was that
Grew up
experience
here,
like?
grew up
What's
here,
Belgium like?
small, so like a small world. Um,
Non-confrontational,
it's,
right?
it's like it's at the same time very typically European and Western and modern, but in some ways it's also behind. It's
Hmm.
not the most innovative country, I think.
Interesting.
They always played careful, try to be very democratic about it, then end up
Right.
having then different political parties trying to figure out for 2 years how to form a government before they can
Right.
business. And then that just happens, and there's no revolutions, and nobody really gives a fuck, and things just go. It's
Move
uh,
forward.
it's easy. It's like that's a nice social system and everything. It's quite a good country like to live in, but in forms of getting changed on, being like up to date with the world, especially like just recent years, it became a thing here to have these immersive spaces and some club with video mapping, and it's still very new here,
Hmm. Interesting.
and it's cool to be like also like more on the edge locally,
Hmm.
but then yes, for amount of jobs and amount of budget that there is for all these kind of things, it's hard looking here.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I don't, I don't know much about Belgium besides the time that I spent in Space Safari, and I actually was there I went to a trapeze brewery like in 2000 and I don't know 14 or 15. I don't remember which one it was, but it was like a really crazy trapeze beer that was
Like
what was it called? Which one?
with monks in the
Yeah, with
monastery.
monks. Yeah, the monastery. It was cool. It was back when I drank. It was a fun experience. um, but this time visiting, I had the opportunity to like get more immersed in the culture and kind of like talk to people that are very important in the culture. Just the people in the festival, and obviously like these festivals are gonna attract to them trendsetters and people that are on like the fringe like yourself and people that are kind of like guiding the culture. um, and I was very impressed. I think it's a very, like you said, it's like a safe kind of like comfortable place, but that's a good thing in like a global sense. Even though things take time or there's a little bit things are slow, like look at the world, like things are very very fast. And when it's funny because like at the same time like taking 2 years to build a government could also like be like very negative, right? Because there's problems. But it could also be very good because now you have a chance to like get into detail and like get into like the nitty gritty, and then maybe even at the same time also not make mistakes, which is like what's wrong with most governments, is that they're just very like, let's just do this and let's do this, and then you wait 4 years to see a result, and it's like that was a bad idea, you know, and you have to wait until the next government to change it. And there's like, yeah, not to get too political, but I just think that there's something interesting about like moving slow and taking things simple, that can be beneficial. Maybe that's like maybe like a little bit privileged to think, right? Because if I need something to be fixed now and it's not being fixed, then that could be a problem. But I think if the whole country is in somewhat privilege, maybe is not the right word, but if there's good social programs to keep everybody at like a good base level, so even if you're on like the lowest end, you have some sort of humanity and protection, then taking things slow is probably like a very good thing in a global sense.
Yes, I guess historically, definitely. Now it's deteriorating for like past 10 years at least. Like with like the central right wing government being like towards the majority.
Yeah.
And yeah, you notice that we had this very nice system, but it's every year it's like a bit smaller, a bit more optimized, or like economically optimized. I guess, I don't know, partially because of some people put a lot of money in their pockets and they need to get it somewhere, but also there is a very aging population, and it just takes like I think the biggest part of the budget for government is taking care of the elderly, which at least they do. That's also
it's important.
Anyway, we become 90 years old, then here is still a good place, I think.
That is important. It's like it's one of those oxymorons, right? You're like, where's all the budget for like art? It's like, oh, we're going to the old people, and you're like, fuck those old people. And then you're an old person. You're like, well, it's a good thing that we have a budget for old people.
Yeah. And my grandmother is getting old and living in this old people's home, and when you're there, you see like even people pay additional fee for it, but still, if the government wouldn't sponsor it, this could not be affordable for most people.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Yeah. I always, whenever I think of social programs, you know, I come from Israel, which has a lot of social programs, and come to America, which has very little social programs. Social programs are communist, you know, it's like a bad word to say social programs. And it's just, it's like one of those things that like, again, it's like privilege and like having, you know, being like wealthy, and like if you're in that kind of ballpark, it's like, oh yeah, everything's good. This is the best place in the world and everything's great. But then you like are ignorant to like all the suffering of all the people, and it's like they don't have to, they're not mutually exclusive, you know, you can have both. And it's just funny because it's like at the end of the day, it's the powers to be don't want there to be all these social programs because they benefit from, like we said, like, you know, pocketing money and creating this like heavy disparity between people, and it's a shame because it's like you can have you can take care of the people that are less fortunate while still having people that are very fortunate. You know what I mean? Like you can still have very, very wealthy people and a middle class and a lower class that's taken care of. Like they don't have to be separate. And it's like whenever like America gets into like these kind of, you know, it's not even about right versus left. It's always just about like, should we have social programs or should we not have social programs? It's always like a political thing instead of like a humanitarian thing, or like you know, do we take care of our elderly? Do we take care of our, you know, military? Do we take care of our sick? And it's never like, it's never that. And it's always like, well, this is a right-wing problem and this is a left-wing problem. And it's like, no, it's not. It's just human beings need to be taken care of. That's just like, you know.
Yeah, from a Belgian or European perspective, the situation in the United States is it's like two camps forever. It's like this, like yes, like just two big groups battling each other, making a whole show out of it.
Yeah.
Very populistic, and yeah, there's like no pirate party.
No Green
There is no
Party.
alternative. Like they don't get a chance to come into existence there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's it's by design for sure. And the thing is that like living here for almost 5 years, I see a lot of benefits to the American system. Not necessarily not the two-party system. That's terrible. But like the way that we're getting very political, so maybe we'll just say this one point. But um, but the Constitution, like the idea of a Constitution, like that there's this like kind of very heavy set ideology that's not rooted in religion per se, or like not rooted in like political spectrums. It's just like a very simple rule, and that is something that's missing in a lot of places as well. Like Israel's a good example. Like there is no constitution, and therefore Bibi can kind of create this super fascist government without being a fascist government. It's a democratic country, but yet if you look at it from any perspective, it's not. You know what I mean? And like this is very political, but like even like with Trump, how he's considered this kind of like fascist and crazy person. He can do whatever he wants, but there's protections that won't allow him to get to the place that he wants to get to, even if people think that he will on both sides, right? Like you have the crazy people that want him to do all this crazy stuff, and you have the other side that's like scared of all this stuff that he's going to do. And really, in reality, he won't be able to get to that position because of the protection. And that's something that I think is like, a very interesting kind of idea, just in terms of like, politics and law, that I think is very powerful, because it does create this kind of like baseline, even though it's a very old notion and old ideas. The founding fathers really could kind of see this like base level of like what should be the right thing, almost like a 10 commandments, right? That's just like when you look at the 10 commandments, you're like, oh, this is obvious. Like this is, I don't need to have 10 commandments to know not to steal or kill, right? Like I just know that that's good and bad. The Constitution is almost like that, but in like a cultural or like ideological kind of sense, which I think is very good, and not a lot of countries have that. But yeah, we can definitely move on from this. I'd love to talk about your studies, because you have a very interesting kind of like background of education, and please feel free to fill me in. This is just what I got from your CV and your LinkedIn, but you studied photography, you studied digital arts and entertainment, and you studied multimedia. And I'd love to kind of talk a little bit about what those things mean to you, and kind of how they meet you within your work now, and maybe some like anecdotes of people that inspired you throughout your time in school, and maybe even before.
All right. Yeah, so I was always like this computer geek. So I got my first computer when I was 11 years old.
Oh wow.
Started playing with this basic programming language, trying to figure out how gorillas.bat works. And I carried this with me like through my teens, and then it was like just going some randoms like basic education, and then at some point found out that multimedia was actually a direction you could follow in school. And I was like 17 or something. And this was still it's like early 2000s, and multimedia then was writing HTML, like a little bit of PHP, setting up a server, like very, very basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So and yes, like you would make a little movie or take some pictures, just all the basics. And then after that, they started this new thing in high school called Digital Arts and Entertainment, which was towards people who want to learn about game design and development.
Mm.
It was super cool, but also very heavy. It was experimental first year that they organized it.
Right.
Teachers brilliant, coming straight from the industry, from game companies and everything. But like the level of the workload was immense. There was
Really?
no parties. There was no hanging out in the sunshine. There was just going to class, going home, making projects one after the other.
Interesting.
And somewhere halfway the second year, I caved. The maths, that was the problem. The mathematics were quite advanced for me because I didn't really focus on maths in school before.
What was the
And
what was like the sorry to cut you off, but I'm just interested. What was like the um uh like what was the not fabrication, but what were you utilizing that math was a problem? Like was it just logic and stuff like this, or was it more like
um,
coding?
not the theoretical side, so there was actual math
Hmm.
theory that we also had to learn.
Really?
And they started on the first day, like, let's review matrix calculations and vector
Uh-huh.
algebra. And
Gotcha.
I was like, well,
Why?
what?
Yeah, why?
Yes, because then like the game development class was
Right.
like started with let's draw some pixels on a screen, let's
Right. Let's
create our
understand it
first basic,
theoretically and yeah.
and we're gonna make this car that floats over terrain with a height map, and we're gonna calculate how this car has to rotate and be rendered. Um,
It's actually pretty cool
and
to learn game design like but like the theory
yeah,
of it,
yeah.
right? Like the actual mechanisms and not just like the engine. It's pretty cool.
But I was very late appreciating that side.
Right.
Like
Right, right. You're a kid.
I was
You're just like
to learn to make games because I liked games and I had
mhm.
ideas to make my own games. And and suddenly this became very academic and yeah, with this maths and everything was like, whoo. And then we had some assignments in Half-Life engine, and I
Oh
was
wow.
making a replica part of the city where I was studying. And for that, I got a digital camera and was shooting a lot of pictures. And I enjoyed this so much that I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop digital arts and entertainment. I'm gonna focus on photography.
Hmm.
Uh, in retrospect, not the ideal choice. So, after 1 year of photography, I was a bit bored with it, and already like, yeah, well, I just need a nice portfolio. You don't really need to study anyway, so let's just do that.
Mhm.
Then discovered that everybody is a photographer on their phone, and the demand is it's not like a surefire study or job. And yeah, then I just started worked in IT support jobs here and there,
Mhm.
um, all the way through COVID. Like COVID really changed the direction of like what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
It was a lot of time suddenly for like thinking, but also freedom for exploring because
Mm.
there was no like, oh, look for a job now because I had savings, I had some money from my grandfather. I was living in a little house. I didn't need to worry about much. And I had this sea of time, and nobody else was expected to work. So finally, I was not expecting myself to do anything else. And I just went behind my computer. And then we had this, I think, right before COVID, I had this opportunity to work at what was it, Los Theoni or at the Cypress Festival also. And after that, like with COVID, we started getting together, and I was getting into TouchDesigner by that time. Uh, First Resolume, like just the
Mm-hmm.
VJing concept was nice. I discovered that like the winter before, and then discovering TouchDesigner, and then it was like, wow, this thing can do everything, and it's
Yeah.
with infinite tutorials and things to discover in there, and then working together like for a couple of years, but COVID was there and we didn't have a lot of jobs. It didn't roll in.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a lot of time to develop, a lot of time to learn things and explore and create stuff. And yes, until 2 years ago now. Wow, COVID is long ago already.
Yeah, it
Time
was.
goes so last couple of years, I've been like doing stuff by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes also a friend who's learning from me and assisting me with making installations or with playing on parties. Um, and it's still search. It's well, it's still
Psychedelic
search.
cat.
Like I love doing the parties, but it's very tiring. It's like this
Yes.
all night shifts is really killer. I'm also almost 40 now, so
Mm.
the body is not so young anymore, and the mind is 2 days to recover after every full night. But still, it's kind of what I love doing most, like making nice visuals with good music and just having my tiny little kingdom in the hidden backside with all the computers and laptops and network cables and everything there. And yeah, like if the music is good, it's super epic.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't go party anymore if it's not for work.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, and when I go to party, I dance for 2 minutes at the end when I don't need to turn any knobs anymore.
Right. 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 When the sun comes up.
Yeah, like when the projectors are already off and people are still dancing,
You'll join
that's the
in.
best one. And have some free
S-
time.
So innocent. Tell me, when you were in school and you were studying this kind of arts and entertainment, and then you shifted into photography, what was the moment that you kind of discovered visuals, VJing, Resolume before you got into Touch Designer? Just like kind of the intro into this kind of expressive, visual thing. Was there a moment? Was it over time? I'm always interested to see where people found this kind of like concept of VJ and visuals.
Um, I think it's after doing like helping my friend with the AV for his installations or for his visuals on that first festival, and then just getting Resolume, a copy, cracked copy of Resolume,
Mm-hmm.
and in the winter then I was doing some like a night winter shelter volunteer for homeless,
Mm.
and like being there and sleeping there to have somebody present in the building or something in case of emergencies,
Mm-hmm.
but also to just like be a bit of a give companionship to people who want to talk and stuff.
Wow.
But then in the evening when it got late, most people there already went to bed, but I was also always like supposed to go to bed last. Um, and a lot of them are just watching movies or sitting outside smoking a cigarette. And then I was just kind of talking with nobody, and I'm also not the most social person, so I had my laptop with me also from time to time. And then there started opening Resolume and just like
Playing.
trying to figure out how it works, throwing in an image, letting it rotate, getting this cloning effect on it, and you're like, whoa.
Sorry, where was this? This was in a program that you were part of? I didn't get
But
that one.
a night shelter for homeless.
A night shelter for homeless. Gotcha, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Wow, that's cool. So you were
Sleeping.
volunteering?
Yes.
Hmm, nice.
In the winter, they need extra people because there it's more busy in winter.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, that's so cool. And that's such a lovely environment to experiment in and kind of like try things out in. Must be, somewhat inspiring, but also like motivating. You're like, I don't want to be homeless. I might as well learn Resloom.
Also, like I tried also like then to share it with the people there, but
Right.
a few were like, "Whoa, cool stuff." Um, like because you can film the like putting effects on the
Right.
webcam inputs, and
Right,
yeah,
right,
so
right.
they could see that with these effects on top.
So even then, you were kind of getting into the like a little bit of interest into the interactive and getting people's feedback from what
Yes,
they're doing.
yes, from the very beginning, this the difference between just making animation that is static and doesn't change to this real time effects and like being part of it, controlling it with motion and instead of with keys. This was very inspiring from the beginning.
Mm, that's awesome. That's super cool. I love that. And I could see how that would be like a really good introduction to this kind of world. So then you discovered, and obviously changed your life. I'm sure, as it does. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Obviously, it changed your life, as I'm sure, because it does for all of us. Um, yeah, like, how did you discover Touch Designer? Was that kind of the, was that like a very big kind of like, I mean, obviously it was a very big realization of, I'll let you tell it, but I'm sure it was a very big realization of being able to create like a game or like, interactive things without coding is always such a huge, I think for so many of us, when you see that and you're like, oh, I get that I could do this thing without knowing how to code is like fucking mind blowing because you're just like it opens all these doors. You're in Resolume and you're like, yeah, I can make some logic and some simple things with controls, but you're like stuck. You can't like go further into like real logic and real like gates and branches and all the things that you need to do to be able to make like a really interactive thing. And you're like, oh well, I don't know how to code, so I guess I'll just keep it here with like a MIDI controller and whatever. And then you discover something like TouchDesigner, and you're like, oh fuck, I can do all this crazy stuff, and be able to like express what I want to express through through this visual node based environment, and it's just very life changing. So yeah, tell us a little bit about how you discovered TouchDesigner, and maybe also what was your first interactive artwork that you made, and how did it shape your creative direction?
All right. Yeah, so like you said, I was also limited by the possibilities in Resolume. Like you could have some LFOs and then like route some things around but I wanted like I think one of the first things is just this I saw this spectrum analyzer like just as a line
Right,
and then with
right,
some
right, right.
feedback going in the distance. So you have this kind of 3D feel of a audio spectrum. And then not sure how, like somebody recommended TouchDesigner, or I saw some link to it. And I think also my friend who I was working with back then shared it with me also. He's pirate all the things and such. Now I pay for it. Now I have commercial licenses and I pay my share. But then yeah, it was just for trying out.
We won't tell anybody. Don't worry.
I'm sure they're happy that if piracy leads to a sale, it's a good thing, right?
For sure.
Um, and then the like doing a lot of tutorials and becoming kind of good at it, like understanding the designer on a conceptual level. Like it's like just learning to think into these streams of data and how they flow and how their types translate to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the learning how to make Python and working with extensions was also a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this like workspace there, big workshop, a big hangar with a lot of space. And there was this idea to make a big cylindrical screen and project from all four sides to have this 360 immersive space inside this tube, and then to use Kinect to make it interactive. And then I made a patch where the Kinect gives you the player position. This gives the position of the virtual camera to kind of align your vision with the 3D space for rendering.
That's
So
cool.
like it's what is it? Not Quadri project, but the other one.
Um,
I think
E-rectangular? No.
I tried Quadri projection, but then ended up rendering cube map
Perspective?
and then reproject.
Oh, okay. A
Yes,
cube map. Yeah. Like e-rectangular, like a 360.
Yes, like a 360 render, so that if you go closer to the edge, also you can kind of
Right.
watch it tight through the
so
window
cool.
into the space and everything. And then just have 3D objects, like very basic abstract things floating all around, falling down, raining
Super cool.
donuts, and so effects for when you walk. You got this like water ripple effect on over everything. And yeah, that was part of like expo day with all kind of visual artists together, which I think ran for 2 days, and then first lockdown, like first lifting of the lockdown ended, and second lockdown started.
Oh my
And
God. What a weird
to receive
time.
visitors after a few days, so it was short-lived. There, I discovered, or in that period running up towards it, I discovered how powerful TouchDesigner is for these kind of things. Like you have an idea, and it's immediately like, even if I don't know how to make it, I
Right.
can imagine if it can be made or not.
Totally.
I can imagine if I can learn how to make it in a reasonable amount of time.
The rapid prototyping of tools is really insane. I don't think there's many programs or environments out there that allow you to rapidly make something, like even just for like a UI. The fact that you can make a UI with extreme levels of depth and complexity within, I mean, you obviously have to know what you're doing, but within an hour or two is just really, there's nothing like it. Maybe if you were like a super good HTML person, you could like maybe make buttons and start getting deep into it, but that's going to take you a long time to write all that code. With TouchDesigner, I mean, it's just like, especially nowadays with the palette, that everything's kind of ready for you to make and just drag and drop. If you know how to connect the dots, it's crazy how fast you can make things super dense. And then, like having that ability to make a UI opens up so many different possibilities, because now you have some sort of like it's a software. Now it's a software. Now it's not just an immersive interactive installation. Now it's a software. Now it's a program. Now it's a system. And that is just super powerful. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. Do you remember?
Yes.
Do you remember the moment or like thing that you were doing when it clicked of like, oh, I know how to use this program on a level that I can do anything. The sky's the limit kind of thing. Do you remember that moment?
Um, not a specific moment, but I remember like realizing at some time that I stopped watching a lot of tutorials.
Tutorials. Interesting.
Yeah. When I stopped watching a lot of them, and when when it became this process of like, oh, I want to learn something new, and then having to be like, no, this one, okay, this we did, this one costs 2,000 euros, so I'm gonna skip it. But yeah, like the necessity to go and ask questions and to look up constantly how things work.
Mm-hmm.
When that started dropping away, then the whole thing also became faster. Like by that time, also having this like collection of things in the palette of all the little docs files that I saved over the years
Yeah,
is a big thing.
for sure.
At the same time, also I notice it locks me kind of into repeated workflows and hinders me
Interesting.
sometimes to really make stuff from scratch.
Interesting.
Sometimes I have to make something from scratch and I have to go dive back into this old project. Like, how was I doing it? Because I've been using it for years, but it's all just running automatically into this very handy docs file that I
For
made.
sure. For sure. For
I
sure.
just start forgetting how it's working internally. So, yeah, but luckily TouchDesigner updates and new stuff gets added, and then at some
All the
point
time.
you do have to go through all the old stuff to make it up to date or lose it. So that kind
Yeah,
of
especially now with pops. I mean, it's like really changing. It's still like
I
pretty
haven't had.
early development. You haven't got into it. There's the beta's open now. You can actually, it's not a close anymore.
Okay,
You have to send an
okay,
email. You have to send an email, but if you have a license, they'll send you a link for it. Um,
nice. Okay,
yeah, I it's it's potentially like life changing. You know, obviously, whatever, life changing, but it's very it's still I've had it for a while now, and I every time like they send an update or something, I jump into it again, but then I get like super um like scared, not scared, but like it's just too much of a different workflow and mentality, like you said, data flow, that I am like blocked from getting deeper into it. And I know it will change. I know they're going to make it better and they'll make it more touch designery, but right now it's like I can't wrap my head around the conceptualization of it, that it makes it not fun for me to play with. Like, I should say, like, it's very fun to play with, but it's hard for me to like take an example and do it my own. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, but it's potentially like it's definitely it's crazy. It's crazy. And like the tools that are gonna come from it are gonna be like fucking amazing. Like so many people out there make such crazy tools. T3D and dot simulates stream diffusion and mini UVs, all mini UVs tools, and Paquetas tools, like all these tools that people make that are so like valuable. They're just gonna be exponential now, because the way that Pops is kind of like utilizing data and giving you the option to not have to like go work around through texture is immensely powerful. So it's like
I
things are more
imagine
direct.
more readable.
More what?
Readable.
Totally.
Is
More
the
direct. Yeah, it's like the
just follow what they're doing and what they're supposed to be named like
so
instead of RG. Yeah.
yes, but also no, because of the way that they're in beta. You know what I mean? Like the potential of it being more readable is gonna happen, but because it's still like attributes and like the way that the attributes are referenced, and I don't want to say too many bad things about it because it really is an innovation, but it's just like it's still at the level where it's like almost more hard to read it. Like I understand how you can take a texture and make it into 3D more than I understand how pops work. You know what I mean? Which is like a weird thing, because it's like they should be more direct and more understandable, but the way that they're kind of implemented now is difficult. And it's getting better all the time. Like every iteration, the team like figures out a way to make it more approachable and more touch designery. But it's crazy. Yeah, you're gonna love it. You'll love it. You'll get it right away. Um,
I will
so
discover it.
you'll discover it right away for sure. So before we get into your set, we're very close here. I'd love to just talk to you about one more thing about interaction. I mean, you obviously realize the importance of the audience interaction and how that shapes the piece and the installation. What is your process to this? Like, do you just take something and play with it? Do you show it to your friends? Do you almost like not even do anything and just wait for the audience to come and play with it? Is there a process for you? And, what is the importance of that process?
Um, Usually, the process like for testing it is just doing it myself.
Mm-hmm.
If there's somebody nearby who wants to move in front of the camera or stuff like that, it's always handy. But it's like so slow. You like people are going to be bored to death for each time waiting half an hour for me to change some
Right.
part in the network, and then be like, okay, wave your hands, and then they're already in another space.
Right.
Um, so no, I will often make like for example, with Kinect, I would use a catch stop and record a loop of my movements so that I can just
Gotcha.
play it back
Play it
while
back.
I'm
Smart.
working on the installation. Yes, usually like also for debugging, like taking just a whole bunch of parameters and things that all interplay but that you cannot see at the same time, reference them all in one constant chop, put a trail chop on it, and record a session, and then afterwards go analyzing like is everything happening as it should happen or not.
Interesting.
Uh, and then with Python also like printing debug statements, like depends if it's a small project, just freestyle it and do none of that and just see where it goes. But for
Right.
big things or with specific requirements, then it becomes a necessity
Mm-hmm.
to be able to debug stuff.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And there must be like that moment where you're seeing the audience interact to it for the first time, excitement, pride in a good way, and feeling some sort of completion. Is there like inside of you? Is there like a moment where you're like, I need to fix that tweak. I need to tweak that, or that little that endless tweaking. Are you like that, or is it
Yeah,
more just like, okay, yeah?
uh, it's like what professional disfigurement, or like
For
when
sure.
you do something too much and you cannot help doing it anymore.
For sure.
Um, yes, like I can be doing a live set and then like see that some part of the mapping moved or some little pixels are off. It's like ah, or this mask needs to be a bit different. Okay, let's leave everything running there to open up Photoshop, start editing it, go in the network,
Yeah.
update the
Like
image.
like
Okay,
like psychopaths, we're like psychopaths when it comes to those things. Like nobody ever can see those little things and you're like, I have to fix it. I have to fix it.
yeah, because you're watching it so many times that every little thing becomes a thorn in the eye.
It's also like like just conceptually you want things to like you want it to work, and in our eyes what it means to work is that it's set up perfectly, so that whatever the effect that you're trying to do with the mapping or the content or the the breaking of space or creating a new space, like it only works when it's perfectly set up. So if you notice that something's not perfectly set up in your mind, you're like, oh, now my cool effect isn't going to work as well because the source material is not set up properly. But in reality, that doesn't actually work that way. But in our minds, it does, and therefore it does. You know.
Yeah, and especially with like immersive stuff, if it doesn't like it doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to have be playable. It needs to
Yeah.
be smooth, behave like people expect it. And when that fails, then yes, then there is this thing of okay, I should have
Tweak.
already done this yesterday, but like it's the worst if you know that it's going to be so complex that it's beyond tweaking.
Yeah.
Like I had this one installation where I project like a sci-fi window on a wall, and it tracks the position of the person walking in front of it to have this whole space of star, like a whole star field and stuff, and some
Huh.
floating electronic eye on the other side of the window, the virtual window. And when it worked, when the Kinect was tracking your head, it's like, yes, this is super 3D. Like the illusion works. But then when it loses the tracking and
It
starts glitching
breaks.
out, it totally breaks. And I didn't have a
Interesting.
gracious way of reverting the perspective to like a
Mm.
neutral position in a way to minimize the breakage.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and then people were like moving, and it stops working, and it move more, so it works even less. And yeah, that was a bit painful.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Fortunately, it's also very rare. Like usually, when things go well in testing, they tend to go well in real life.
For sure. And it's a learning experience. You get to know, okay, next time I need to make sure that there's a switch for when it breaks, and you kind of work that into your workflow as well. Super cool. I'd love to jump into your set here. I'm super excited to see what you have. You're very humble, but you're actually a very high level developer. So it's super cool to get to see into different people's realms. Um, oh! Who is that behind the camera? We're getting to see a little bit more. Okay, so let's jump into your set. All right, so we're gonna jump into innocent screen here, and feel free to take it away.
Um, so I have this main folder where I hold all my TOW files and docs files that I use for live VJing. Um, so this one, this one, this one, and then it opens on the other screen. And there it is.
Nice. So they're all open in like performance mode. You have a that's so cool. I love it. Nice little UIs. Super cool. They all talk to each other.
Mm. Yes, so they all talk to each other with touch in and out jobs, with NDI spout, many things. So it can also work over a network actually.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, so, so I have this like players to load docs files, to expose the parameters, handle presets and everything.
Wow.
So I made this one player B and output in spout. And this one player A. And then this, oh my god, arrow shake.
Windows. Oh my gosh. Windows is so annoying.
Um, so this is the mixer application,
Wow. This is cool.
and let's see, nothing like that. So now I have nothing loaded in the players. Then I have my library of docs files. It's called kind of all different kinds of visuals.
Nice.
For example, this for the foreground and.
Dude, I love this like free floating window concept of like this is so cool. It's like modular. Super cool. Color palettes. Look at this. This is so cool. So you could just mix between the two.
Now I
In-
don't have my. Yeah, I've been porting this to the 2023 version of TouchDesigner, and a lot of times that can be breaking. Okay, no. It's a configuration issue.
Oh, there you go.
Player
Nice.
yes.
Interesting.
Switched. Yeah.
Nice.
So
And
that's
then,
like just some editing modes and some parameters for the image. And then here I got a whole set of
post
effects.
effects.
Yeah, so I can.
Oh, let's go. They animate on and off. I love that. Sick. This is so cool, dude. It's very dense too. Like you have everything exposed and all the options for you. Like you don't have to go into the network. Do you not like going into a network during a show?
Yes, I noticed I'm like going out of perform mode really
Yeah,
impacts the performance when you're trying to
yeah,
get everything out of the system.
for sure. Especially when you
So
look at a
having,
lot of nodes at once.
yeah, just even
Just
the
even
optimization.
empty.
So
Yeah.
like your output is somewhere and your Touch Designer editor window is open, everything there is
Hmm.
showing. Um, you go in and out of the network as you need to get somewhere. Every time you go in, stuff cooks, stuff needs to change your display.
Hmm.
Um, so trying to stay in perform mode is very nice. Also for the focus, like being able to automate more things, like these transitions between when choosing a preset.
Hmm.
If I were to have to go in a network, find the component where this is happening, click on a parameter there, then go up again, click on another parameter here,
Oh, right.
becomes a non-stop running around in the network,
I love it.
and things
I
need to
love
go fast.
it.
When you're live, it needs to go fast. Change some pattern, save it.
It's like a preset almost system.
Yes, this is a preset system.
Hmm.
And then I can like set a fade time, hit this button, and it's gonna keep animating between
Nice.
presets.
Nice. That's super nice.
Only thing is then once I do that, um, it's uh, it's locked to this component. Doesn't
Gotcha.
drive the animation depending on whatever is selected here.
Gotcha.
So
Ah, but you have
automating
them
everything,
saved
I have them saved to each
to each
effect.
component. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's not so bad.
I'll go inside the network later and show you
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love this. Super
what we
nice. I
do.
like this. I like this post effect. What is this? This like a color palette changer. Super pretty. Mask AB. Is that what it is?
Um, No, the left one,
The left one.
it's like a feedback network,
Super
and
nice.
also with a lookup on different kind of ramps.
Hmm. What are the colors represent in this preset system? Is that like the parameters?
Uh, no, it's because I didn't want to have this needing to find a name for every preset,
Mm-hmm.
because you get like inside the show, you just want to save it. But I also didn't want anonymous blocks or numbers, because then I would
Right.
also never remember. And then I came up with this thing to take all the parameters, like
Different
hash them,
values.
assign colors, so it will
Yeah.
give this little noise
Super smart.
bar preset.
Super cool.
And uh, I eventually remember, like, oh yes, this one with the black thing here was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a visual representation. I like it. It's like a zero. It's just a 0 to 1 value, or like a normalized value.
Uh, Something like that. Yeah, I try to account for all the different types of parameter ranges. Some
Mm-hmm.
values will be in degrees and go up to 360, and others will be 0
Uh
to
huh.
0.02.
Uh huh.
So it's like a combination of different modulo values of different multiples of
Interesting.
whatever parameter value is.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
Basically, it
then
looks if in 0 and 1, I will choose between 0 and 1. But if the parameter has something larger, then I will take another range of comparison to choose a color.
right.
Try to
What is
have
this
some
ticker kind of thing? Like this news ticker, neural feedback. Is that just what's active now? It's just too big to fit.
yeah, just the effect that I clicked. Yes,
I love it. It's like a nice little
so that you
motion.
always
It's super
know
cool.
when you're changing parameter, what you're actually changing.
It's awesome.
Uh, it's a relic of before. Usually, I have this switch high performance mode.
High
To turn
performance
that
mode.
off,
Nice.
you off, and have less animation going on.
Nice.
But for showing the project, it's nice to have.
Yeah, I love it.
And well, that lump some of these master out
Gotta have a
effects,
strobe.
make it black and white, all this kind of basic stuff. With psychedelic mirror on.
There's nothing better than the
Uh,
mirror.
and then, like this tool, I didn't show it yet. It's kind of the operating center of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see, audio is coming in from. Can you say something?
Hello, 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 hello,
It's
hello,
coming.
hello.
So this takes in the audio. Got my
Takes in the
BPM
audio,
tablet.
audio, 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 audio. Sorry.
And it kind of sends it through. Should send it through here.
Is your BPM is it like automatic, or you're tapping it?
I can choose to tap it. I can just type it here,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have this. The auto button is disabled currently. I've been trying a lot to have decent BPM and rhythm tracking
Yeah,
going.
it's hard.
It's never flawless. There's
No.
always kind of moments where it stops working, or
Yeah.
yeah, looking into
I mean, I find
different
like
Python. And,
when it comes to like the music that we do, mostly like electronic, it's like usually in a range, and what I usually do is I'll just keep it at a very close range, and then when I can visually see that it's out of sync, I'll tap it again. But like
yeah,
9 times out of 10, the difference between like 128 and 130 is like pretty impossible to see anyways. And then like if a new DJ comes on, then that's usually when I'll tap it, because usually that's going to be like an indication. But most people in their set, they're kind of staying within like a pretty close range.
Yes, and like I've this Resolume style block moving thingy there, and just once in a while look at it and see like, okay, is this still kind of on the
Right,
first beat there?
right.
And and I got it on the map to the MIDI controller also, so
You could tap
I
it there.
can just tap it here. You know what this is? Under 26. And then usually like I will take some of these signals and map them to any parameter.
Hmm.
So, for example, this one. Get this bubble thingy.
Bulge, 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 bulge. Sorry, got excited. Bulge, 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 bulge. Nice.
So this is available here, but also available in the players.
So it's like you have two. There's because there's a lot of modules. I'd love for you to break it down for us, because it seems like it's like interesting how you have it set up. You have like your audio analyzer, and then on the right corner you have like almost like your master output, which opens up into this kind of like window that you can mix, and then you have like content selection between the two content selection. Is that right?
Yes, yes. So the players are the content selectors, um, which then by itself can. I'm not sure. I have it here.
You can play videos as well if you want.
Yeah, so I'll have just this one talk somewhere, this one,
Movie player.
and then I give it a
Oh, you give it a folder. Oh wow, cool. A clip
give it
selector.
a
That's
folder,
awesome.
and then I get
Nice.
all these things and can blend between different movies smoothly.
That's cool.
So then there's just one talks for like I will open it, I will choose the folder with the content for that project or that event, and then export it as well. Because this thing is for shaking it again.
You can turn that off, by the way, in Windows. There's an
Yes,
option to turn it off. Yeah. It's in the registry, I
I
think,
don't.
or maybe it's an option somewhere else. But in the registry, you can turn it off for sure. It's fucking annoying.
Yeah. mm, Should be with Snap Windows. Maybe I just turn window. Okay. Um, sorry about that.
It's okay.
So it's not only for playing back, but also I use it for making the patches because it's easy to manage everything with it.
Mhm.
Um, so, for example, I will just usually start in TouchDesigner, goof around, make something, and as soon as it's a complete thing that kind of fits together, um, I select everything. I say uh, collapse into a base comp, and then save that in my talks folder. And then next time I open this, it will be here, and it will have no picture.
Mhm.
And I'll be like, okay, this is this thing. I made some parameters. Can can like play around, make the presets and everything, and then let's say oh, trying to animate.
Damn.
And then save the presets, give this thing a tag, like stripes, colors, whatever, to find it again. And then export it back into these folders and overwrite. And now we do this. That's also the display the thumbnail there.
This is reloading the files.
It's going through all the. Yeah, okay, so now it's got the thumbnail. Which also makes it easier than remembering names.
Right.
So I was getting so many of these little files that it became.
Is this all replicators?
Yes, this is a replicator on a base template.
Yeah.
That looks to its parent's name to kind of configure itself and
Gotcha.
authorize and everything.
Very nice.
Then also got OSC, so I can move the new controller, move a parameter and map it.
Nice. Like a listener almost. That's super cool. Super useful.
First,
That's
I
awesome.
tried using existing UI libraries, like people make these great widget libraries for TouchDesigner where everything is very advanced and works super nice. But I noticed like trying to make them dynamically when loading docs files, building the things on the fly, using them is putting like causing a lot of FPS drops. And the native parameter come from TouchDesigner is quite fast in comparison.
Yeah.
But it does have its limitations. Like for this thing to map, I need to constantly monitor parameter changes and track which is the last parameter change, and run some Python when I map it. So it's also got some performance impact when I'm using it.
But when you're not, it's smooth.
When I'm not using it, it's gone and it's all just expressions and direct control of parameters.
Super cool. How long have you been developing this tool?
I think now for a good 3 years or something like that. Yes, it's always it's been pretty stable-ish for the last year. Only now I have to update it to the newest TouchDesigner version, which I was like in full panic doing today for this for this recording because I noticed like I can import export my effects and then they stop working. Like I think all these effects also everything goes in docs in folders just on export folders, so I can kind of
create like a show and then have a new show,
and then just load all these effects, and then it will just put these effects in the bar here, and then break everything and have no image anymore.
Yeah, I love this A/B selection system. It's super smart.
So something somewhere is still breaking. About this.
And okay, so when you're doing mapping, are you just outputting this to another project to map, or does this also have like a mapping element to it?
The mapping element is also in the mixer.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Can we shoot that one? The Okay, this one. Yeah. You have this. First of all, I'm not gonna get too deep into it now, but you have to give me a bunch of this stuff. I'm just saying, you have to. This is some sick stuff, dude. This is really nice. I didn't get to see this side of yours when we met. You know, I only got to see your cool interactive stuff. I didn't get to see your sick visuals.
So yes, I have a mapping
Uh-huh.
part here.
Canten. Gotcha.
So it's just
You slice mapping. You don't like to use Stoner? You'd rather use Canton?
yes, like, and I don't often use Stoner unless I really have to just use a normal projection screen.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I tend to just take these corners and put them in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
It's also increases resource usage, so I will usually then lock mapping, which in
You'll
the
use
background.
the remap tops.
Yes, like just use the UV it creates, remap
Yeah.
it, and then when this is closed, turn off the cooking for the
Yeah.
whole Canton mapper.
Yeah.
And like a handy thing is also to be able to load like mapping files for stages.
Mm-hmm.
And can say like to enable the mask in the output and also to apply like to the mapping or not. Like, am I working directly on a pre-mapped thing that needs to be remapped onto reality, or is it already as it should be, or for streaming to, for example, another computer which already for which I need to do pre-deformations, so I can apply the mask also to the mapping. Yes, and also things like the resolution. For example, if here I say give me a resolution of 80, so now this one here is rendering at the lower resolution.
Uh-huh.
And I can choose to
You can
override
override
it or not. Yes.
Interesting. So basically, you have a template when you make a new tox. Like you have a template that has all the parameters that they're referenced.
Yes, I have in the player. So this is the main network.
Mm-hmm.
This is the actual tox that gets loaded.
The content, yeah.
Content, yes. And then this one is the UI and all the logic that it needs. So it's got the preset system, all the pop-up windows, settings, the main configuration. And for example, here, this one has a resolution and it gets it from this one, who always will look to this named operator sync up, which is this one.
It's like a master control.
Yes. So this one takes in touch in, which is gets passed around. Let's see. So I just have this multicast IP and a port, and all the ports, everything is defined in this configuration file.
Nice. That's super useful to have. That's really nice. You're referencing. How are you referencing the INI file? You're just loading it when the project loads?
Yes, when the project loads. Is it here? No. Things are everywhere.
Of course.
This one? Yes. So this one, so it has this parameters.
Sorry, can you go back into that again? I'm actually interested in this very much. So you have Okay, but where's the actual file being loaded from? Because that's
So
the
it looks at its parameters, then like make some selection to create this table. And here it will say, I changed the parameter. And every time anything changes, it will send it in touch out. It will also, all the modules will receive it in touch in, except this one, because it goes off when it's sending to prevent the infinite feedback loop.
right.
And when you press save in the user interface, it takes this, it copies this config collect,
To a table.
and it will copy it to this config file, which then just process this right compo save parameter.
Interesting.
Um,
Interesting.
so the idea is that if I change any of the parameters, like the not this
Global.
one, the global, this shared config, if I change this FPS, for example, all of them should go to 60 FPS.
Because they're all reading from that same config file.
Because they all get it from through the touch out, so they all
Oh,
just get the live.
so the actual file is just for you to have a readable file. It's not actually reading from that file.
No, it's for the first module that starts up to know what to.
Oh, to
What it's
start from,
facing.
to have something for to start from. Gotcha.
So I can change everything, and if now the project, if I quit the project and don't save anything,
It
it will
loads
just
it right
remember the old values.
I love that. I love that.
But if I want to keep it at 60 from now on, then I just press the save button, and that will now be the
So
new default.
can you just go back into that for 1 second? The mechanism that's loading this table at the beginning when you open the project.
So here, when the project starts, it says it calls restore config on the parent. So the
Function.
parent is just this this whole component has an extension on it,
Mm-hmm.
and a name called parent shortcut has config.
Mm-hmm.
I like to put everything in extensions and then be able to have this one place where everything happens.
Yes.
Uh,
And the extension is just loading up the file, I guess. Oh, this is a serious extension.
Restore config. Yes, so it takes this sal.file, which is this config file, that. So it loads it, and then it goes through the file. It sees if that, like,
If something's different.
if something actually exists and can be applied to existing parameter, it will take that parameter and restore the configuration.
Wow. And you're in. So this extension is actually changing the custom parameters.
It's changing the custom parameters. Yes. So it's looking here. The whole. So the
Table.
names are just the same as the parameter names.
Yeah.
Just copy the value and put it there.
Interesting. Very interesting. Seems like these small little things that are just like so valuable, you know, like these like little tiny workflow things that, you know, you kind of found solutions for something or a workaround or you figured something, but then you just get like exposed to like these little things. You're just like, such a good idea, you know, like it's like these little, because everybody has a different background of how they get to programming or development or engineering, you know, and like somebody brings it from the game industry, somebody brings it from the, you know, whatever, UX UI design industry, and like everybody has these little things, and then you just like pick up all these things. It's so fascinating. That is such a nice tidbit. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Yeah, please continue. This tour is lovely. I love this project.
So this one, like this receiver, sync, and connector, I just drop into any project that I want to integrate into this setup of modules, and to very easily allow it and the config one, this one also.
Mm-hmm.
So I can they all kind of work by themselves with it in any other project. So I can adapt it and link it up to my stuff without spending too much time on it.
Mm-hmm.
What else does it do? No, here.
I'd love to see, because you touched on it a little bit, but when you are creating like a content patch, do you have to set up any specific parameters or like, like what does that look like inside of like, let's say this content, right? Like inside of its talks, is there anything specific that you're kind of like getting ready besides for, like outside the player? Like just this product, you just have parameters exposed. Is that it? Just like custom parameters, and that's what you'll be able to control.
Yeah, just have a parameter page named settings. I'm not sure it needs to be named settings. It can be anything. Doesn't even need to have parameters. Just need to be a component and have this out one top. And
what about like resolution?
If I want a custom resolution, I will always, like if I'm making this outside of the player, for example, I see this renderer.
That's why you like to make things inside the player so that it kind of like sets everything up to the get-go. Interesting.
Yeah, because I can also just drag in this one and then
start from there
and then link the parameter. So just do like this.
And then just save that talks and now it's there.
And then just protect that. And yeah, so now the resolution is automatic. So it's rendering this little square. And if I change this back.
Right. And if you save this talks, then when you load it again next time, it's loading into the same player that it has the same reference parameters. So it's just loading as it. Very smart.
And the whole, like managing the loading and the saving helps me also avoid making mistakes.
Right.
Like if I change a lot, I want to change the name. I can just call this one number 2.
Right.
And be sure that when I export this, it will also here already give me the right name, so I don't overwrite the old file by accident.
Gotcha.
This kind of. It's basically, it grew over time. It's all the stuff
I was doing. I'm sure.
Too much and like over time automating more and more things and make it like its own program.
Can you show me the saving mechanism? This is something that I recently just built a saving mechanism for Magicbox for my company. And dude, like the saving mechanism was so convoluted to build because like I needed to be very simple, but also very like very dumbed down, but also very safe. And like, like I have one project and it loads the same talks every time, right? And depending on what environment variable I give it, it loads talks whatever control or talks output. So when I save, I didn't want to save the project. I want to save the external talks, but then it becomes like a whole thing of like, it saves the external talks, but then it saved the project, so it now saves the project in a different place. So I had to like create like a logic to like save it twice almost. It saves it once in that wrong place and then saves it again in the right place. And it was like a whole like thing of like, this is such a convoluted way of getting to a simple thing. So yeah, I'd love to see how you're dealing with that as well.
Yes, so that's also part of the reason I wanted this encapsulation of all the talks files into this one project, and be able to save things out separately without saving the player itself every
Where
time.
they're actually in the project, right? Just the
It's
toxes.
also like every time you quit it and you come back, you want to continue on your work, but you don't want
Right.
to overwrite the file a million times, risking each time that something will get corrupted. And so once everything was stable, and I got to this point like, okay, just save docs files and to get out of the habit of them automatic, because I was still automatically just pressing Control S all the time.
Right.
Um,
Getting that was a bad
and then
habit for
now
something like this.
I have this like this exit button, and it bypasses the "Are you sure to quit" option.
Uh-huh.
So when I press quit here, it will not save even if stuff changed in the project.
Interesting. Are, sorry to I continue with this. This is very interesting. Just a quick question. Is anything in external talks, or are these all just talks loaded in the moment?
Um, Only this one is always an external docs that gets loaded.
But
Every
everything else,
time
all the other modules are loaded in.
the rest is just loaded in and
Gotcha.
statically there.
Gotcha. Sorry,
Um,
continue.
so how I save the docs? Let's see. Somewhere.
Oh, you got 500 lines of code. You know, might not be easy to find.
Yeah. So what it's doing, it goes to where the browser is looking at its library of docs files as a starting point. Otherwise, it just tries to go to /docs, gives this pop-up for saving the file, and it just looks at like the target parameter of this component.
The target parameter of where the actual external tox is.
Yeah, like this control panel is looking at the target, which is this loaded docs. And so it will say, okay, this operator is the thing I want to work on. Return me a new target, which will be the results of saving this compressor file. If it saves successfully, it should return something. And then it will say like whatever is the file name I saved as will also be the new external docs parameter of this component.
The actual the path.
Make sure that if you give it a new name, that it also still refers to this new name. It will save all the presets for that, and debug make a print statement like I
It gives
saved
it a
it.
new thumbnail as well. I see, right? Image top.
And update thumbnail, yes, and then
Interesting.
folder, I think. Image name is new target is just the whole path to where the file is saved, so that I can then use it to save the image and the presets on
Right,
one
the
side.
name of it. Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Super cool. Very clean. So, did your like studies in school of like basic, computer science like help you kind of keep your head focused in like when it comes to systems engineering and scripting? You know, like I never learned any coding. I only learned coding from ChatGPT over the past few years. And yeah, okay, so I have like a decade of visual scripting, and there's a lot of connections between visual scripting and scripting, but there's also a lot of things that I only realized this year that like a script isn't read from top to bottom. It's just you could put modules anywhere, and it will just reference.
Yes.
Like that
It's
is
a
a
whole
fucking
network.
It's a whole net.
It's like the designer network in text.
Yeah, but like, you would think that, okay, it's read from top to bottom, so therefore you have to make the module go from top to bottom, but so there's a lot of things that are similar. But my point is that, like, when I now that I can understand scripting a lot better, I don't have the basic of like logic and things like that. So I still need a lot of help. Did your studies like help you kind of get that base so that your techniques and workflows were kind of already in a place of competence?
Not much,
Mm.
but it did help to just learn it fast.
Right.
Like the conceptual thinking was still there from getting a bit of programming in school, so I could easily wrap my head around this referencing of bits of
Parameters,
data,
variables, yeah, data.
like going through iterations or this like loops and branches and all these things are easier to relearn because it
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of relearning. I
Mm.
working in IT, I was not programming. I was just resetting people's passwords or fixing their printer or installing some networked computers with Active Directory. I wasn't really doing any kind of coding there. Um, I did before I discovered TouchDesigner. I was having fun with this VCV rack for making music. It's
Mm.
like it's a emulation of modular audio tools, like this
Interesting.
virtual Eurorack system.
That's right. You also
And
make music. I forgot to mention that. You're also making music. That's right.
and I was very like into this PCV rack when it was in beta, and they had this SDK to make your own plugins. And this was
Mm.
like, oh yes, but I have ideas. I want to do this. And then it's like, all right, this plugins is in C++, and it's like, all right, come on, 15 years ago you had some C++. This cannot be hard. And it was a nice like easy start because yes, you needed to kind of know how code kind of works, but you always could just read this file, read the comments, see what is advised to do with like which bits you need to change to make your module. They had some nice help files in their wiki online, and making these modules that actually worked and some people even used them was like a good warm up for this whole visual coding phase.
Mm.
Also, the learning to work with modular audio made it easier to learn TouchDesigner because of this node-based workflow,
Mm-hmm.
which is very similar to electricity signals.
Mm.
Like if you have a one chop value with float, that's basically modular audio.
Mm. Interesting.
And like
Fascinating.
learning how this like how to process signals in this hands-on way with cables and knobs. It was easy then to later in TouchDesigner see like, all right, yeah, so all this data, all this information is kind of flowing the same way as music flowing through.
Mm.
And everything you do with it is kind of like an advanced filter that you put on top where you modify the signal or you extract information from the signal.
Right. Right. Wow. Interesting. Super cool. Lovely. Yeah, I mean, we have a little bit more time here. Is there anything else you want to show us in this project? Something you're proud of,
Uh,
or
I can go a bit into the this one. I think it's perks. It's one of the more recent additions is to have a plugin system for
mm-hmm.
when I want to do custom stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Uh,
the Saber
um,
plugin. I like that one that you made.
this one,
The Saber.
not
You were sharing that, I think. I guess like a, you can draw, yeah, this one, yeah. So plugin system, huh?
Still has some old stuff loaded. Um, Not sure. Let's see. Okay.
Nice. Like a Vegas-y kind of effect. So you're loading in like a completely, it's not a content thing, it's not like a post effects, it's a much more like an actual
It's like
module or program.
yes, like a sub patch
Mm-hmm.
with that its own UI,
Mm-hmm.
and it's heavier than just the effects.
Man, your Saber project has gotten very advanced, I see.
It's actually an old version here in the
Uh-huh.
plugin because
Okay.
I've been working on the user interface for this,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's possible to like move layers, copy layers, resize layers, and all
Cool.
that stuff.
Cool.
Uh,
Are you gonna share it?
I will eventually share it but
When you're
I
comfortable.
noticed it's a bit more bug free in its latest version.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that is very unhandy is the undo, trying to use the TouchDesigner's
Oh
undo and
yeah. Oh my god.
reincorporate it in actions. Like
Yeah.
if I something here and I press Control C, it doesn't like
Even
it should
worse, if you press Control Z, it's gonna do Control Z on something else in your network that you did before. It's
something
like a
else and
fucking
I don't know
nightmare.
what. Yeah, so this I need to integrate it or create some own undo thing or just put a warning label on it and tell
Yeah.
people want something
Hey,
deleted and don't delete it
Resolume didn't have undo for till a few years ago, so I think you'll be fine.
because oh, I can copy this and voila. So yes, this plugins system is very nice to like because I was always going in the network, changing some things very manually, try like adding a little image overlay somewhere halfway the whole chain of processing to have an extra logo somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and then remember next time where I did it and that I need to still remove it after saving this project.
Mm,
So now it's also like I don't need to save the project when I make changes on the plugin, and I don't need to load the plugin when I don't need it.
right.
And I can like do really funny
Nice.
stuff like this.
Cool. You could like
Yeah.
take the actual players and push them into some texture. Nice.
Yes. So now I'm
Nice. Randomized game. That's fucking awesome.
randomized game footage in there. And these were projected on actual cutouts
Right.
in the same
Yeah,
shape.
we
as
saw it
the
in
game.
your promotional video. Yeah, it's super cool. Good old
And
Game
then
Boy.
to because it's one thing in Resolume to have a mask and do some compositing, and then it's another thing to like start rotating these things around in real
Yeah,
time.
For sure.
and, and being able to like get the visuals in there.
I love it.
Sometimes this thing is like to choose if this plugin is before the A/B chain on
Or
both
after.
channels or after. Yes.
Interesting. Such an interesting concept to have the plugins. So another question I guess I have for you, please continue. We have a little bit more time here, and this is actually very fascinating. So please show us more. But do you, when you're building this, like I'm looking at you kind of working through it, and I kind of get 90% of it. Do you think about like UI, UX when you're building it, or is it more of like, okay, I'm gonna remember this really well if I put it here? Does anybody else use this system? Is it just you? Are you kind of...
So it's just me trying to get sometimes to get my friend who sometimes helps with VJ gigs to also operate it so that I can take a break and have him use it. But it's very personal. Like everything
Yeah.
makes much sense to me. But it's at the same time there's a lot, but it's still a bit minimalistic. Like you have to know what this icon will do.
But once you know what the icon does, then you kind of...
But once you know and how that you can drag this to this parameter and
Right.
things and like yes, it's possible to learn it. It's not too complex, I think. But I haven't had many opportunities to try and teach somebody to learn it. Usually, the people see it in environments where it gets used or in a state of mind that doesn't invite.
For sure.
Yeah. So I can quickly still go in this. It's a bit more messy. Like the players are more clean and I put everything in nice modules. But here, yes, like these main ones are still here. The receiver, this in the configuration manager. And then it has this the mixer and the user interface for the mixer.
Oh, I guess I have a question that could be interesting. Your just go back one. Your the three modules there that you have, like the config and the receiver and the sync. Do any of those have... They have like UI elements, right?
By themselves, no. They
No.
are
Okay.
just
No. They're just... Okay.
they are purely
Okay.
no.
Gotcha. Because I guess I was kind of going to the point of like when you build like a UI, do you have to like circumvent like, if I add a module here, add a module here, add a module here, the UI has to grow or shrink or change, be modular in that sense. Is that something that you think about when you're designing?
Like for example, this Windows height will look at the height of the operators inside or the components inside, to always like
Be
fit
the right
around
size.
whatever is. Yeah. And
But you have a +5 there. I love that. I also have that in all my expressions for UIs have like a +10, +7.3.
I just need some pixels to keep it
Yeah,
apart.
just a little bit.
And then,
Nice.
like
So you're using a lot of panel, or no, what are those called? Parameter comps, I think they are, right?
parameter comps, yes.
Yeah.
Usually I will have a container, a header with some buttons, and a parameter comp.
Yeah, makes it a lot easier.
Control. And then, like for everything that is a button, we'll just call the parent. Right, this one no. This one just closes the window. But for example, this one opens another window. Example. Okay, so this one will call the extension and like save the config, or you have press shift, it will restore the config. And like I try to do as little of the logic inside the UI as possible.
Right. You want to just go to the extension.
Yes, because okay, remove this.
Wait.
Okay, it is dependent on some UI settings here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this should be bound in the other direction.
But you want it to be modular in that sense that if you something removed or something, it still works.
Yeah, it keeps working, so I can take this thing and just make a new UI
New
without
system, yeah.
anything there.
That's a nice one. I like that. Voronoi pool, was that called?
Yeah,
Sexy.
it's I'm using it here in this where did it go? The webcam filter.
Okay. Cool. That's doing the Voronoi on your camera. Nice. Ooh,
That's
pretty.
doing the in the background there, yeah. Which
Nice.
which is also just one of the patches that I didn't copy pasted, and then the only error in the new project is to set the resolution value to manual.
Nice.
So the mixer is again like an extension, some parameter executions and stuff. Then all possible kinds of inputs, and the extension enables and disables whichever one is selected.
Mm-hmm.
Then kind of have this blue channel and red channel for players A and B, and all the effects are just
Ooh.
one list. But the cooking flags are all off, and when you switch it, it will just
A and
only
B.
cook to A and B. Because I learned that when things get too complex, relying on the TouchDesigner to kind of, yes, to optimize it completely, sometimes like something
It's
somewhere is pulled in
yeah,
the
I've
cooking.
noticed that as well. The switch top, technically the switch top should turn off anything downstream from whatever's not selected, but I've noticed that if there is a comp with data inside of it, sometimes it doesn't turn off the cooking of that comp, of that container. I've noticed that as well. I wonder if that's like the type of like, because it's usually not nodes, it's usually like a GLSL or like a like a complex script or something that's cooking. It's very rarely like a top or something like that. I wonder if there's like a variable that you have to add to a script or to a GLSL that says to it, listen upstream if you're being shut off or something along those lines. Because it seems like almost like a bug or like something that's like that's overlooked. Because a switch, it should be like, hey, anything downstream, kill. It should be able to be smart enough to do that.
For yeah, I think there are always these kind of situations where it's like this the top is not active, so nothing needs to cook there, as long as nothing else is changing in that network. And then, for example, okay, you change something, there is no output, so it shouldn't cook because the switch top is changed. But then some other UI element is reading from some
Right.
chop inside of this
Somewhere
network
else.
and tracking it. So whenever something changes there, and this chop is looking at this top, and then this UI element gets updated, and then
Right.
this top needs to cook, or I don't know how behind the scenes the magic of TouchDesigner is amazing that it already can kind of real time compile this whole network into
It's
running code and go
yeah,
so
it's
fast.
insane. It's insane. It's insane. It really is. I was I can't remember who it was. It might have been Matthew Reagan. He was saying that there was a change when TouchDesigner went from like all being built in I'm gonna totally botch this, but it was all built in like not Python, but it was built in something else, or it was all built in Python, and then they shifted like in 2001 or 24, something like that. They shifted to like whatever it's written in now, which I don't actually even know. Maybe it's C# or something, some other language. And he said that like it was like such a huge shift in like the way that the program worked, that it was like like that it was like you still didn't have to compile back then, but there was like a moment, he said, that like every time you did something or big, or like loaded something big, there was like a jump, and when they made this shift from a different language to different language, it was like night and day. So I think that was like something that they always had in mind, but then there was like through the iteration of TouchDesigner, they made better and optimized, and it is crazy how they continue to like there's so many programming languages inside of TouchDesigner that even though there's so many languages working together, it's all cohesive, which is also like very unique, in an environment. Usually environments like even Unreal Engine is like, good luck, you can do Python in Unreal Engine, but it's like it's wrapped in something else. It's like, so it's interesting how they managed to keep this environment so true to the language that you're writing in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think same with pure Python. Like, often people say it's slower, this and that, but it depends what is running, or like what this Python interpreter is actually running in terms of code on your machine.
Right.
And I imagine with the designer, they really like made their own version of Python interpreter with their own optimized bits of code underneath it. So whenever you do something in Python, it's always gonna like cohese with the whole code thing of TouchDesigner going on in the background.
Yeah.
Because you're writing Python, but it's actually compiling TouchDesigner.
In its own language. Yeah. It's really like a super unique system. There's so many other, like, there's VVVV, and there's, other node-based systems that are synonymous, like Tool and Magic Music, but TouchDesigner in the way that it's not the way you interfaces with it, but the way that it's set up, its back end and its front end are like the same, and that makes such a like cohesive environment for UI, for logic, for content, that it's very unique. There really isn't anything like it in that sense.
I think, yes, probably like Unity and Unreal Engine potentially could do everything TouchDesigner can do.
For sure.
Just like with enough blueprints or plugins or whatever that you can find, and having like the advantage of having such a huge community and user base that you can find almost anything. I think for me also, this is the next step, is kind of breaking out of the garden of TouchDesigner.
Yeah.
It's super, it provides so much freedom, but it's at the same time its own way of working and thinking, and you bump into issues like people will ask like, oh, this is very cool, can you make it that it runs on my phone? And then you have to be like, you need somebody who can translate this into some other system that runs on phones, because this doesn't run on phones. So
for sure.
I think learning a tool like Unreal Engine probably, and then TouchDesigner will more and more, I guess, become the operating system, the thing managing the inputs and outputs and everything on that side, and then having an actual high-end game engine with cutting-edge graphics and millions of effects that are already made and working perfectly, and control it with TouchDesigner and bind it together.
Yeah,
Because
this
binding
is what
things
I
together is the real power of this software.
totally. It's it's not being stuck in one specific thing. It's being able to, it's like a hammer, a multi-tool, like a Swiss Army knife is really useful. But what if you had two Swiss Army knives? Like it's not a great metaphor, but yeah, it's like being able to have them talk to each other is really where it gets really powerful, and each one has their strength. Like the rendering in Unreal is a million years ahead of TouchDesigner. TouchDesigner doesn't even have direct, doesn't have fucking any proper, ray tracing, shading, or anything like that. Yeah, you can definitely get things to look really good, and even, especially now with people like Joseph Phelps that are doing like the T3D and all this kind of like high-end rendering, it's getting a lot better, but it will still never get to the quality of Unreal. And then when you think about things like input and output, Unreal is a fucking pain in the ass to get it to talk to anything. Yes, they have a really good live link system that is like almost super simple to use as a user, but to implement anything that doesn't exist in the live link library is impossible. I've tried. It's not impossible. Everything's possible, but it's very difficult to develop for. You need like a proper a proper team or a very high big brain person. So it's like, but TouchDesigner has inputs and outputs for everything, or everything useful at least. So really combining the two for me has been massive, and remembering what strength this one has, what strength this one has, and then remembering that the speed of iteration in TouchDesigner is unmatchable in other systems. Like you mentioned blueprints in Unreal. Blueprints in Unreal, even though it has like thousands of nodes, you won't be able to do things as fast as you will in TouchDesigner, because TouchDesigner is like at speed of thought. There's not 1,000 nodes. There's 100 nodes, 200 nodes. And you can, if you know what you're doing, you can make things super fast. In blueprints, you have to research, you have to find, you have to understand, you have to ask a friend that has done the research. And yeah, there's a big community, and for sure, but sometimes you just want to get things fast. You want to get fast results. It doesn't have to be the most optimized. It doesn't have to be the most performant. It just has to work. And then you'll work your way back to making it optimized, making it performant. So strengths and weaknesses, I think, of each program is where you're going to shine. And then just one more anecdote for that is the ability, like UI is a good example. You can do a UI in Unreal. You can make it look beautiful. You can make it look nice. But the amount of time it takes to get something workable that you can test and iterate on is very long. It takes a long time. Now, the benefit, obviously, is that now it's integrated into your game in a very unique way that you can load it on a laptop, on a phone, on an iPad, on a web, everything. So there is that big benefit, right? That Unreal kind of in the back end, you press what platform you're going to and it does it for you. But the downside is that
licenses for 5 machines.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure, it's free. But the downside is that if you want to iterate fast, you have to compile each time. You have to wait. You have to go back. You have errors that you have to go into the code. In TouchDesigner, you have an error, you can find it very fast. You know what I mean? It's like it's visual. It literally tells you. You click on it, shows you where it is. In Visual Studio, when you have an error, it's like fucking thousands of scripts you have to go through and find the line and the reference back and forth. It's a lot more of like a classic thing. So, strengths and weaknesses. I think that when you want to iterate, when you want to come up, when you want to research and develop, TouchDesigner is king. when you want to have like a final thing that you have the concept already made, and you're like, okay, I know what my mode of operation is, I know what my modules look like, I know what the final thing more or less is going to be. Unreal is going to be like a good place to enter into. Outside of rendering, if you want to render, obviously Unreal is going to be better looking from the get-go, and as a toolbox to make like an environments and lighting and things like that, Unreal is so fun to work with. The way that you can fly around, and you add a light and put on ray tracing, it looks like Octane. It looks like gold. It looks like a AAA Pixar. It's like amazing, and you don't have to do anything. You just click one button. It's done. So that's something that I don't think is they're so different. But when they work together, it's like really, really powerful. I'm excited for you to get into it. I think you'll pick up Unreal very fast.
Yeah, some things I hope will be more straightforward or easy to get working in Unreal, like 3D character animations. I tried getting rigged character into TouchDesigner. It's a hell. Yeah. With the bows, and it has just different ways of expressing what a rigged character looks like or is represented like. And
well, I can tell you though that in Unreal, you can add a skeleton fast and get animations, but if you want to go into like animation blueprints, it's a fucking hellhole, dude. It's like because it's built for a game, so the logic is like for a playable character, which is great if you want to do that. But if you just want to do like a Connect, let's say, it's a fucking nightmare. Like there's definitely ways to do it. There's plugins and everything, but it's like because it's a game engine, and it's not like TouchDesigner can be a game engine, but TouchDesigner is like an open-ended environment framework. Unreal is not an open-ended environment framework. Unreal is a game engine. So everything inside of it is focused on that. Over the years, it's become like open for like virtual production, for graphics, for, UI, all these things, but it's still in its core is a game engine. So everything is kind of around this concept. You know what I mean? So that shift is a big one. But once you realize that, then and you kind of approach your design and development with the idea that this is a game engine, then you're fine, because you just kind of make the you make the what's the word, like the like your steps to get to your goal are kind of taken as a game engine, instead of like, oh, I know how to get from A to B because I'm an open-ended developer and I know what I want to do. You're like, okay, I have to think like a game developer for a second. What is Unreal's way of doing this A to B thing? And then you're fine.
Yeah, because when I imagine using it, it's like, for example, in TouchDesigner, I want to have this 3D space, which is matching the stage and everything, and environment. Now I want like all these little guys jumping around in it and maybe like bouncing into each other and chasing each other and having a little bit of personality. So I want like a bunch of computer NPCs with interaction, and they all need to have their little AI and do some pathfinding in this 3D environment. And then I think that's something that should be easier to build in a game engine than trying to make it in TouchDesigner.
Bro, in a game engine, in Unreal, you could buy a plugin for $50 and, you could do it in 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, for sure. That is where it's, like, going to shine. But I will say that maybe this is kind of because this is a very specific example you're giving. But when you would build that in Unreal, let's say, with that $50 plugin, let's say now you wanted to add like generative noise to a character, or like, I don't know, you want to, besides for having like an AI logic, you want to give it like some interaction outside of that, or audio reaction, or a MIDI controller or something, you know what I mean? Going from like that plugin that has been built for $50 is going to be so specific to what it does that now to connect all those things that you want to connect to it is going to be difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. Whereas like in TouchDesigner, it will take you a really, really long time to build the NPC system. But once you build that NPC system, all your parameters are there, all your variables are there, you drag and drop the reference, you know what I mean? So it's like one or the other is like an interesting kind of game that you have to play. So it's a journey, but it's it's like it will open up a lot of windows for you, and I think it's really like this is fast iteration for one thing, this is fast iteration for one thing. Where do they meet, and where am I going to spend the least amount of time getting something fast, so that when I get something fast, I can now think and have like some context of like, okay, I have this thing fast. How do I build it stable? How do I build it modular? How do I build it dynamic? That's when you kind of think, you know, because if you go opposite and you're like, okay, I have this big idea, you get lost, and then your big idea gets, you know, watered down. But if you can fast iterate and play and research and change things fast, then you really figure out like what is more important, what is really useful, what is, you know, the core of the thing. At least that's how I like to approach design and development. Because it's like very, very rarely do you have the big picture in mind. Or very rarely is the big picture in mind the final product. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I notice also I'm working on the next version of my VJ system now. Like this one is mostly stable. I can use it without much changing much. So I got some time now to work on the next version, but since more than a year already. Because the modularity is nice, but it also tanks the frame rate when switching between the different TouchDesigner instances, because Windows will always be like, oh, this is not your front application anymore, so I will give it 10% of your GPU resources and
so stupid.
Go to hell. And it's like, click there, change some parameter, click back
And
into
click
the
back.
mixer.
Yeah, focus.
This one causes the least stuttering. Run everything at 30 FPS so I can like have less drops. So yes, doing everything in one canvas and having then kind of an overarching system which handles all these modules as loaded docs files into one big project. It's going to be kind of the next goal, being more modular, like everything is going to be a layer. The Canton mapper is going to be a layer. The plugin is just going to be drop it in as a layer, and these layers can have routers and like go however you want, or just go look at below it and pick up, and kind of like how Resolume works.
Right.
But with the ability to drop in TouchDesigner docs files and load presets and all that stuff there.
Have you seen anti-alias Jack Hurley's tool AAVJ?
No.
He has I think the Discord is open. I'll send you a link after. But it's a great. He basically built Resolume inside of TouchDesigner, where you can drag and drop toxes, like you're saying, like a the same way Resolume's like with the layers and the columns. It's not very modular. It's not modular at all, really. It's like a built program, but the way that he approached it was like, I want it to be like Resolume with toxes, like you're saying. So it looks like Resolume, it feels like Resolume, but instead of you putting loops, you're putting toxes, and the parameters are visible, and you can kind of, connect different parameters to different datas or whatever. It's very, very cool, and it's free. You just got to join the Discord, and he's kind of like developing it slowly, adding features here and there. But I think it would be really useful for you to see, because it's that's the almost like what you're envisioning. And he put a lot of work into it. And I think the best thing about it is that it looks super pretty. Like, that was what always impressed me. It's just a small thing to be impressed by, but whenever I see like a TouchDesigner UI or like module that's like pretty, that's like designed well, I'm like, how the fuck did you do that? You know, like my UIs all look the same and they're all ugly. You know, it's like, oh man.
Yeah, I always also have just like random contrasting colors and blocky stuff everywhere.
Yeah. Everything looks
Um,
like a you know, like a wireframe. You know, when you design like a UI, you have like a wireframe of just like gray boxes of where everything goes. Everything looks like that. I'm trying to get now into making like using like images, like textures for buttons and for UI elements, so that I can get a designer to like design something in Figma, and then take like the design UI elements as like, you know, pieces, and then just overlay them on the button. So instead of a button being like a color or a text, it's now an image, and then, you know, it might be hard to like make animations, but at least you have something that's more visibly nice. The next version will be like, how do you
I'm a big
animate?
fan of this material design icons, like
What
this.
is this?
It's one of the so I have all these
These buttons.
icons for my button,
Yeah, the icons. Yeah.
and it's just this like this
Ah, yes, the
character.
characters. Yeah.
Yeah. And then for the font, there is this material design
Yes.
icons font for designers,
Yes. I've seen that. Yeah, for sure.
and because then it doesn't need to save any files anywhere, and it
That's
still
right. It's not
has
like an image. It's still the
UI,
font format, for sure. For sure.
and they all kind of style together well because they're all from
Yeah.
the same set.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, I want to have like rounded corners on my windows, or like, you know, the slider, like, you know, the slide, even the nice palette sliders, they're still like, you know, very Windows 2000 or Windows XP, or, you know, Windows 98, you know. Like you look at modern UIs and it's like they're so beautiful and they're so snappy, and, you know, so it's like there's you know, there's definitely a way to do it in TouchDesigner, because you look at ever seen Error Talks, what is it called, 43 Error. They have that really cool module that you can like do randomized parameters with like knobs and things like this, and it's like very drag and drop and very modular, very cool, and it just looks so beautiful. It looks like they made all the icons so nice and so like there's animations. Like when you move a knob, it doesn't just do like a normal like radial, you know, it's like animated and like with a fall off and with the thing, and it's like all these like small little things that make the UI so nice. So I know it's possible. It's the whole game to play.
I'm always what do you call this cautious
Yeah,
when like for performance reasons mostly.
for sure.
'Cause
Well, clearly they're doing it. Oh, I lost you there for a second. Your webcam went out, and I lost your audio. It's funny because the background is moving, but your video is stuck. What happened there? One of your talks is running, but some of them aren't. Did you just press pause on somewhere? Oh, there you are. And your audio went away? There we are.
yeah, all right.
That was
Well,
trippy.
because my webcam is so crappy, I'm using my phone with the NDI app,
NDI. Okay.
and after some hours, my screen decided to
Turn
turn
off.
itself.
Yeah, the optimization aspect for sure, but I mean, you know, it's just a matter of like approach and like smart. like not intelligence, but like level of, okay, so instead of using a PNG, you use some, a library that pulls it and only pulls it in the right time. And maybe you don't even use a PNG. Maybe you use like a bitmap. And there's all these things that you can do to like make it work fast. Maybe you don't even use PNGs at all. It's all, drawn in inside of Touch as a thing, but you add some roundings, or I don't know what the fuck they're doing. I have to look at their module, but there's something there. So, Innocent, thank you so much for showing us your super my mind's blown a little bit. I know that a lot of people will get a lot of value from seeing your workflows and kind of the way that you approach things. And I definitely have some things to talk about with you after the stream. Yeah. I wanted to kind of get a little bit more into, kind of some interesting concepts and things. But one thing that you reminded me of during the set portion was that you make music. People should check out Innocent's music project. It's called, you can just tell me because I don't have it opened here.
Catronomics.
Catronomics. It's pretty sweet. Nice high-end dark sci high tech fast music BPM.
Yeah. like fusion, bit of everything.
A bit of everything.
But it's like that. I got the release recently on a label, and after many years of making music, actually, but always kind of just doing it for the enjoyment of making it. But my girlfriend, she was like pushing me.
Hell yeah!
People need to hear. You need to, like, it's selfish to just keep it there for yourself on your computer.
Nice.
Out slowly, trying to get a bit, to have some people listen to it. I think
for sure.
it is
but
nice.
We'll link it down here. So the intersection of music and visuals, the way that you use audio and music inside of your installations, and of course, the way that you create audio reactive visuals. What is your take? What is your approach? And just give us a little bit of info on that.
I will usually make the visuals first, but
sorry,
already...
Innocent, sorry, there's
Yes?
a beeping sound.
Beeping, beep?
Beep, 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 beep.
I don't hear a beep.
Yeah, it's definitely coming from you.
Feedback?
Might be a feedback. It's like a... Yeah, it's like a pretty consistent... Oh. Could it be from me when I talk? Wait.
Yeah, I think it's feedback through my speakers because I'm hearing you on the speakers and the...
But I hear it when you're talking as well, not only from me.
This is a very crappy webcam.
But the audio... the audio was coming from your phone before?
The audio was coming from the phone before, yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm gonna try restart NDI app.
Wait. I might be able to turn it off. There's some controls on this thing. Let me see if I can get it out. Echo cancellation, noise suppression, noise isolation. No. Maybe a compressor or a noise gate. Let's see if the noise gate helps. No. Compressor, limiter. No, maybe if I turn off the echo cancellation. No, that definitely is not better. Oh, it's a little bit better.
I think now it's gonna come to my phone again.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Better.
Yeah, definitely better. Now you gotta lower that layer a little bit down. You're just a floating head in a
Uh,
sea of Voronoi. There you go.
it's
Oh,
because my phone is behind my
there
computer
you go. There you
screen.
go.
Okay.
Okay. And audio, music, interaction. Go
Yeah.
for it.
So I will I will usually just like play the music that is gonna play on the event where I'm making visuals for if I'm making custom content, or just otherwise like just listen to any music. Um, have this responder module running, so I have control signals to test things out. But then mostly I just focus on playing with the existing system or developing something new, like visually, and anything that looks interesting to change, promote it to parameters, and then like when everything is finished nearly, then I will hook up the audio and see how things respond to the audio, and then start tweaking to get everything within acceptable ranges. Because a lot of things it's very sensitive, especially when working with feedbacks and a lot of stuff going on. Then if there is not enough power coming in from the sound relevant to that parameter, you're not going to notice anything. And when it's too much, everything becomes extreme chaos. So there's always kind of this dialing in the ranges of every setting that they want to be able to control with audio, or that you want to be able to control in general. Um, Mostly, like I use audio reactive elements in a lot of patches, but not all of them. A lot of things are just made to be easily controlled with the presets or with a MIDI controller, and following the music is then often kind of a live performance that's up to me to just move the parameters in the right time so that it makes sense and that everything flows nice. Try to make a visual set, kind of like how a DJ would freestyle a DJ
Yeah.
set.
Yeah. Smart. And then when it comes to like the intersection for you in terms of interactive and immersive, um, does it connect to you that like that multi-sensory kind of thing, audio and visual kind of connecting?
Um, it doesn't always happen, but when it happens, it's very awesome. Like these moments where both become one experience.
Mm-hmm.
In live stage visuals, it doesn't always happen. At least for me, for the people that watch it, probably more. But I can be so absorbed in the operating side that I'm working on the music, but on some kind of autopilot flow state where 5 minutes later I have no idea what music was playing. And I can like visual set for artists I like, and the music is so good that the visuals also become good because I it's easier to follow if you know some of the tracks or if you know what kind of vibe it's gonna be. And then afterwards, even like forgetting that this guy played the set and be like, huh, when did that pass? Just from being over concentrated on managing the system a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I tried a few times like to make audio visual combination patches in TouchDesigner, like to let it control synthesizers or have some audio going on. But it's always very random and experimental stuff, like just bleep loops and to this like knowing how to combine this into one thing, kind of like how a movie director would do it or something. real time, at least, is for me. I haven't had much need for it, I think, or like it's interesting theoretically to do myself, but then like actual gigs that require it are very little.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's one of those kind of things. Are you thinking of a way to do like a multi-show, like something that you can, DJ and VJ together? Is that something that you've been thinking about at all?
I tried it last year. Played my set on a party where they asked, or like a friend who was gonna promote me said like, okay, also put your visuals there. And I was like, okay, but if I'm controlling this live set for music, then how am I gonna at the same time control visuals?
Right.
So what I did is kind of for each track made the audio reactive visual set but at home,
Mm-hmm.
and then made another set for the playback where I would just send cues from Ableton to trigger the right clip in TouchDesigner
Smart.
and have it mapped on the wall. But it was on the music, but it wasn't live. It would follow the structure of the song, but when I changed live stuff in the audio, it's not gonna impact anything on the visuals. But then so much is going on in these visuals, and it's such a fast music and chaos that nobody notices that. Oh, it's responding a bit different to this one synth line that's sounding a bit different than intended. Nobody knows.
Yeah, that's
The,
that.
the people who
Nobody knows.
eat and stuff, they're like, whoa. They're like, wow, you're making and this, and it's all happening here at the same time. So, and I learned this only recently, I think. Like, for example, working with loops, I was always against using loops, trying not to even use Resonum, like do everything in TouchDesigner, make everything real time, audio reactive, and like for one computer or even one person to operate, it becomes a lot very fast. And I noticed like for quality shows, when you see all the big shows that are like, whoa, this is insane. Yes, like you can maybe 10-20% do real-time generative stuff, but you need a solid collection of loops and backgrounds and classical VJ elements basically to make it all on the next level without needing 2 years of development for one person to create the whole show.
For sure, there is definitely an intersection between having everything generative and loops. I also don't use loops, but I do realize that if it's not a mapping show and it's just an LED screen or just content, then it is beneficial to have some sort of content or something that can be utilized either as a backup or just even just as something to like an intro or an outro or a middle ground, some sort of transitional thing. I feel like with mapping, you can get away a lot more with generative and things changing and moving all the time. The structure itself is kind of like the goal or like the focal point. But when it's just like pure content on a screen, there is something to like, if you want to maybe take on a journey or tell a story, there is something there. And then what you're talking about when it comes to making a cohesive show, yeah, you're going to want to have a bit of both. So that being said, when you are uh, making an interactive installation and there's that feedback loop between a human and a machine, and there's like this response between the two. Do you view it as anything like outside of the realm of fun or cool or interesting? Is there something else there that's happening that you look towards it?
Um, It would be nice if I could say yes, but
This
no,
is a
like
safe space.
no, a lot of stuff is definitely just like, oh, this is cool or this is interesting to make, um, and first let's make it and then see what we can do with this bit. Um, but no, one of the things that I lack, which I admire with people that have actual like art education as a background, uh, is the ability to have your experiences tell a story or give like transfer information to people beyond the visual
The
only,
abstract.
even it's abstract and visual, to still like transfer knowledge or feelings on a more subtle level. And it's very much part, I think, for this year also for me with stuff I will be making, like what is it giving or what is it contributing? How is this use of my hours of my life a valuable contribution to the world as a whole? Because it's nice to make wow things, but if that's all, then that's a lot of time and effort for that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like to think that there definitely is a benefit to understanding like the concepts behind telling a story, color science, understanding the different perspectives and focal points for sure. By the way, it's all stuff you can learn. It's not like you don't have to go to art school. It's like you can learn it very easily, or whatever. You can find the information. But I think there is something to the idea of like, especially generative art, that it once you kind of let it run, and once it's kind of like in its state of generation, for lack of a better term, then it's almost alive. It's almost an entity. It's almost something that lives outside of what you made it for. Now, when you add to that the human element, when you add to that the intersection of the human element and like the intersection of the human element and the interaction, then it's almost like there's something else going on. This is kind of what we were alluding to at the beginning, and we're bringing it back now a little bit. I just think it's an interesting topic. But, when I play with my visuals and the way that I built my visuals, that it's, I'm controlling every aspect of it, but it's all noise patterns and, generative concept simulations. Now I'm much more into like, physical, rigid body kind of simulation that is kind of like emulating the way things interact with physics, just, in our world. There's probably a better word for it. No, it's not like all physics, but just in general, like particle simulation, fluid dynamics, rigid body interactions. Then to me, it feels like that the thing exists and I'm kind of guiding it, versus like, not versus, but it just feels like that. And when it feels like that, it feels like anybody could kind of play the controls and guide it, but the thing exists outside of it. I did the show in Berlin like a few weeks ago, and it was super awesome. And I did a VJ workshop before the show, so I kind of like got to meet a little bit of the local VJs and made friends with a few of them. And a VJ, Fractal Data, I wish I remembered his first name, but he's a fan of the show, so he's probably watching. Shout out. He came up to the VJ booth, and he I showed him like the controls, and I've done this before in the past, like showed people controls and like, hey, play with this a little bit. But because he kind of like is a VJ and is a performer, I showed him extra controls and I got him a little bit deep into it. And I was kind of like standing there, it was a long 10-hour show, and this was already like the last few hours, and I was pretty blasted. We were both pretty blasted, and it was just like watching him play with the system that was built was obviously felt very good, but it was almost like it made me think like, damn, I'm not really doing anything. Like I built the thing, but the thing works regardless of who is playing with it. And it was like a kind of crazy realization of like, this thing is kind of alive, you know? Alive is like a weird word because what's alive, what's dead, but it has something, you know? It has something that's not just moving knobs and playing clips or adding effects, or you know, there's something else happening because it's utilizing things from our reality, like physics, like simulation, like generative noise patterns, that it's almost like it has some sort of you know, extra dimension to it. And it's super like esoteric and abstract. Like I don't think anybody else is going to be like, oh yeah, that thing's alive. I can tell the difference between this and this render. That's not the point. The point is that it like it in its existence, in its utilization, it has that. Have you ever felt that with like things that you've made? Have you ever felt like that with like an interactive thing, that it has its own thing? I don't know,
Character.
agenda or like character, like, you know, yeah.
People see it sometimes, but then because I know what's behind it, I know it's like 90% their imagination. Like sometimes, yes, stuff will just randomly start fitting well together, and you make this discovery, like because I often have just the two main layers and the effects on top, and then this how two patches combine, how their different settings then also combine, and sometimes you find these sweet spots, and where the whole movement of everything kind of becomes alive. And these are also for myself the most enjoyable moments, where I'm doing the stuff, I look on my screen like, oh, this is looking great, and then I look at the actual stage and it's like,
Damn. Yeah.
can I do this every time? And you cannot, and that's the beautiful part of of generative. I think that
It's moments.
you make it, but you're also the discoverer of the results. And I think, yes, like no other form of art than the art where you make systems can make this this make you the visitor at the same time.
Yeah, like you're almost part of the audience as well, right? Because you're like the unexpected, or the randomness is going to play a big part in it. It's there's kind of like a tension sometimes between the randomness and order, or like, you know, the chaos and the order, especially when it comes to like physics and noise patterns and simulation, just because that's the nature of reality in some way, and most generative art is kind of based around that. You know, I try to have, my approach to it is like there should be something like I have a lot of spring dynamics inside of my visuals, so that if all the pieces are flying all over the place, I have a way to create more order by springing them back. And it's not like a cut, right? Like the spring is also inside of rigid body dynamics. It's also part of physics, like the spring, you know, it's going to have like some sort of feeling to it, but it's a way to create order inside of the randomness. And there's a few other things that I use as well inside of that that are more secret saucy. But do you have an approach to this as well inside of your art, especially with interaction? You don't want people to break things or go too crazy with it, especially with particles. Do you have some approach or some guidelines that you apply?
Um, yes, often like with things that depend on feedback systems and textures,
Right.
there will always be this like cross stop for the base, like the basic state that it can go back to,
Mm.
so that you can kind of feed it into the feedback and make everything less extreme, or even pull it all the way back and go back to the
To
base
normal.
state.
Yeah.
Yes, this definitely everything needs reset buttons and initialize buttons and stuff to be sure that things work. Um, but yeah, usually I don't worry too much about it. I just dive in, make stuff, and when stuff needs to do other stuff, dive in more and
Mm.
change things.
Mm.
And enjoy the discovery, not only of the results, but also of the way of making things.
For sure.
So this is also not always rigid. It's like every time you learn a new thing, you think, oh, now I will try putting everything in JSON files and working with JSON files instead of docs files, just so that at least I know how to do it. Because for sure, like the arts, or at least the visual VJ stuff, it's like making music. You can become successful and make a name for yourself, but it's certainly not a given, I think. And there's not so much demand that everybody can have a good full-time paying job doing that.
Mm.
But on then the more technical side, just knowing how to use the software to make any kind of desirable request from a client, professionally, that's like where I try to focus or focus my energy more. I end up making a lot of visuals usually, and if I do stuff in my free time, it's also like okay, also make the user interface, but mostly make clips and loops and pieces of projects. But then the boring part of it, the coding, just have specs, have a deadline, make it work.
Mm.
And this kind of project is where I learn the most, actually. It's
Interesting.
when
Is it
I don't
because of the
decide what I
deadline,
do.
or is it because of the
The
box that
deadline,
you're in?
in the
The
box, yes.
confines.
Like, yes, because if people have no expectations, then you can do what you want. It's easy to kind of settle at some point and be like, okay, it's good enough.
Right.
But when people are like, oh, yes, but we noticed a one frame stutter on this fade. Can you fix it? And
Right.
then suddenly comes a thing. And it's like, okay, fuck. I've had little problems, and then you, oh, I can fix it in 30 minutes. No problem. I'll look at it. And then 5 hours later, like, okay, found it. It's fixed. But then still billing 30 minutes because I already made a quote and said it's going to take a little amount of time. But next time it will take less time, right? And because then you learn the hard stuff.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. It's actually an interesting topic to dive into. When you are approaching kind of corporate work or client work, first of all, what has been your mechanism for finding this kind of work? I think people are always kind of interested in that. And then also, um, do
I'm also
you?
in.
Yeah. We're all interested. Where do we get the work from? For sure, for sure. But has there ever? Do you have, besides for what you just gave us in terms of like your approach to making the actual thing, do you have an approach when it comes to the type of work that you'll take, or not the type of work you'll take? I mean, like, do you have an approach when it comes to when a client comes to you and says they have this idea? Very often you have to rein them in and be like, okay, well, this is your budget, and this is the time that you have. This is what you can do. And a lot of times there is conflict because they want to do something that's bigger than what they can do. Whether they want to, maybe they want to spend more money, but there's also not a lot of time, or maybe they don't want to spend a lot of money, but there's a ton of time, and there's always this kind of like Venn diagram of things. Do you have an approach of how you quote unquote educate the client to be able to rein them into the right place?
I used to be very bad at it. Being like, okay, you got $50. I have
Sure.
nothing else to do. I will spend my whole life working for you. But no, I like over the years slowly started like first having a Google Docs template for making my quotes where I can say, okay, I do this, splitting it up in parts to kind of illustrate to potential client, like, look, I'm not just making this one thing you ask, I'm also going to your meetings, I'm traveling to where you want me to travel, I'm investing, I have to pay this license, all
Of
these
course.
things that in the beginning you don't really think about.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like here in Belgium, that 50% of whatever you're asking is going back to the government for social
Woof.
people's social security and for making sure these old people have a comfortable old day. So you have to learn to know or to like, because they act often they will be trying to get the most for the least buck. Even
Always.
big buildings will still try to cut corners and do it cheaper. And at some point you start realizing like, yeah, okay, if some guy works for you and he only gets paid 15 euros an hour, you are still spending 40 euros an hour on this employee because you also need to pay all these other costs and you need to hire an office for this guy and buy his computer, etc., etc. And then suddenly what you are asking as a freelancer is not so much in comparison. Usually will still be cheaper for them than actually trying to hire you.
For sure.
And then it became kind of this like a poker game where clients will be like, we have this time, these requirements, can you make us a quote? And then be like, try to see how many hours, imagine for sure it will be 50% more than whatever I think it is. Then like see how much I want nets or how much I would need in this time frame where I can only focus on this job. And then just propose it to them like, okay, here's the quote. This week is going to cost 2,000 euros, and you will know immediately if this is a decent client with a decent budget. They will say, okay, no problem, we'll pay you in a month, or when it comes in 10 days later, we will pay the invoice, and then that's okay. And when they really cannot, they will say it, because then they will say, yes, sorry, that's too much. And then it becomes this kind of talk like, okay, what is your
Negotiation.
intention?
Yeah.
Yes, like, are many people gonna see it? Is this a big production? Is this commercial at all? Are you getting funding? It all kind of influences in this process of trying to find a fair price for both sides, I think. And
Interesting.
then how to find the clients, that's a bigger problem. The networking part, I still suck at it. I emailed every Dutch festival organizer in the Netherlands because they have so many big festivals with their hardcore music and everything, with 6 stages and crazy shows. And one of them, like one party organization, responded to me after 4 or 5 months to say that maybe they want to hire me for maybe something that they maybe will organize.
Lots of maybes, huh?
I think big jobs go to studios with more people that can handle actual big projects without clients needing to be afraid, like, can this one guy pull off what we need? Because when it's really a big festival, for sure, I cannot do it myself. I
You have to
also
hire
will need to find a team, find friends who are also in this branch and work together to create something, and then start specking on scales that I never spec'd before, like I can tell a person, yeah, you need to rent 3 projectors and provide me a table and a chair, and I'll bring all the cables and everything. But when somebody's like, oh, we need to fill a 50 meters wide, 20 meters high stage and shoot fireworks in the sky, then I'll be like, okay, I can join whatever team is going to do that, but I don't instantly am this team or can form this team and cool stuff like that. And
Interesting.
it's also, I would love
But
to do it
you
for,
wouldn't, you wouldn't turn it down though if somebody came up to you and said that to you, right?
for sure. Somebody says, hey, we like your style and we want to, then whatever it takes. Yeah.
To make it work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, being able to scale up is just, it's like solving any problem. You can solve it. Interesting. So we're getting to the end here, but I'd like to ask you just one more kind of thing, because I kind of saw it when we were in your set and you were in your zone. You were a little bit in the flow. You were kind of like jumping in your project and you were proud of it, and you were kind of like showing us things and getting very it looked like you were in the flow, and it felt like you were in the flow, and I was in the flow with you. I felt it myself. Do you put any weight into the flow state? Does it something that can you trigger it, or is it just something that kind of exists and you can kind of surf it? What is your kind of relationship with it? And your camera is a little bit choppy here there we go.
Yeah, you also dropped, I think, my internet
Did you hear me?
went wonky. I did hear you, yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes, being in this flow state is very important. Also, part why I like to do like live operating myself all night for a show is after setup. This first hour is like getting into it. Second hour, making sure everything works nice, and then at some point you can just keep playing and you forget the world exists, and that's when the best content comes out. Also, like, people can ask anything, I will not hear them, will not remember their face, nothing. I'm just working. And when making stuff, also, like, I often make things on the move on my laptop, and I can work on projects and anything. But to really make novel stuff and be inspired and stuff, it's like putting loud music at home, having my 2 monitors, my fast computer, like being in this kind of comfortable personal zone. And yeah, sometimes if it's been a long time opening a project or working on something, it's just a matter of browsing around, diving in this network, just getting in like what is happening here, trying to find it back. Sometimes then running into some concept and then just watching a few tutorials or TouchDesigner related things, just to get the head in this thinking mode. But yeah, and it goes automatically. I start focusing enough and getting in there, and it starts rolling this meditative feeling of just not being here but being inside the program.
Hell yeah. That was very eloquently said and true. You know how important that state is. Wow, well, Innocent, so nice to talk to you, get to know you better, seeing your work. I was impressed when I met you, and now I'm even more impressed and getting to know you. You're super awesome dude, so I really, really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you want to share with us before we leave? I will just say, people, check out Innocent's Instagram, follow him, check out his music. We'll have all the links down below. But please take us out.
I think nice thing to finish on is one subject we haven't talked about, the AI revolution that's going on. I think this crafting things by hand is gonna get more valuable in the future because it will become easier and easier to make nice looking content because of AI. And I think also because then making content becomes easy, the story will become more important and meaning behind the artworks and everything. And it's for me one of the biggest struggles connecting this meaning and visual style and results. And if I could trade, if I would make ugly art with great meaning instead of nice looking art with not enough meaning, I would choose for the great meaning. I think the world needs art. It's a healing thing, right?
100%.
Even I can make something, okay, it just looks cool, just looks colorful, trippy, psychedelic, whatever. In itself, it's not telling much of an actual story, just following what is happening. But like the effect, how it helps people process the music and experience it on more than the auditory level, to have these visuals there, to be able, for some people, like they tell me after the show, like, oh, I was just standing there on something and you saved me because I could keep watching this and it kept me anchored to this place and stuff. Doing things like that, just giving people a nice time, I guess, in the right setting, can also be beneficial to all that is connected,
100%. And 100%. I just want to add to that because I think a lot of times we miss the concept of meaning and story. Maybe not miss, but I think we kind of put a little bit much too weight into what that means. I believe that really those two things exist within the intention of the artist, the intention of the viewer, the intention of the experience, whatever it is. I think that you can embed meaning and especially what you were just saying right now, like helping people, making them have an experience that makes them better, makes their lives better. You can embed that into anything you do, especially art, but anything you do with intention. That intention can be as simple as, I want to VJ tonight and I want to make people feel good. It could be as simple as that. It could be as complex as iconography from, ancient, esoteric, mystical, etc., etc. It could even, be math functions that are have properties, but it's the intention. It's like, I'm gonna put this icon because my intention is that this icon will make somebody feel good, etc. Or, do you know what I'm saying? And I think that the intention is where the magic happens. And yes, things could just be pretty, cool, trippy, but if my intention is that trippy, cool, that fun, trippy, cool thing is intended to give people an elevated experience, then that's what will happen. And that's kind of maybe why when you say, because you're saying it and you're also moving away from it at the same time, when you're saying like you want to have more meaning in your work, but at the same time you're seeing the results of your work, of people saying that they felt good, or people having these experiences. They're seeing more meaning in the work than you even put it in there. I would say that is a direct result of your intention. That would be my 2 cents in it.
Perhaps, yes.
There's always more. There's always more. I think that there's always more, and you know, that's also where maybe inspiration, muse, maybe um, life in itself is important. You know, comedians say this a lot. Like when a comedian becomes really famous, then they start traveling on private jets, or they start staying in fancy hotels, and then they start losing all their life experience. Now they don't have any jokes to tell anymore, you know? So this could also be something that's like inside of our work, where it's like, you know, we get jaded to like what a party is, right? Because we're at the party, we're working 10 hours, we're tired, but we forget like what the whole thing is. The whole thing is a place for people to come and express themselves and be healed and be in a different altered state. And maybe once we forget that, then we also forget that our intention has power and has meaning, regardless of what the actual representation of it is. And that's a feedback loop. The more intention you feed into it, the more results you're going to see, the more things you're going to have to intend into it, the more results, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I don't think that that's something that you can, like, it's not something that you can't learn, but it's also something that is, like, deeper than that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to like give an answer. It's more of just like, I think that if you want more meaning in your work, it's less about like figuring out like the techniques of that through like, you know, whatever, film or cinema or, you know, contemporary art, etc. It's more of like, what is the thing that I'm bringing to this piece while I'm making it, while I'm installing it, while I'm talking about it, while I'm you know, doing it, that I think is more valuable in my thing. I think so.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I still think then, like, yes, this intent to have this intention is already a story. It's already a meaning. Like I can have the intention to point attention to something, but if I cannot imagine something to point attention to, then I don't have a story. And then I can still have this intention, but it will be kind of empty. It will be like okay, it's something, I don't know what it is. It's something. Believe me, it's something positive.
Right. Yeah,
But I cannot put my finger on it.
that's the feedback self-fulfilling. But I think it starts with the intention. Like, especially here, this is a good one. Especially if what you're saying is like, okay, you have the intention, you don't have the finger to put on it, but then you're like, trust me, it's there. Trust me, it's there. Through that process, you can find where it is that you want to put your finger, or where your finger needs to be put. Does that make sense? Like, the starting point is the intention. The result is finding out how to create that intention inside of the thing through
Yes, how to
something.
represent it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because if you work backwards, it's the same problem of like, oh, look at this Merkaba, right? Look at this Merkaba. But what is the intention of the Merkaba? Like, this is just a thing, right? But if you're like, and I'm speaking from my own experience, like my intention when I have the Merkaba is because I understand I'm very beginning in my journey as a understanding what the Merkaba is and Kabbalah and all these kind of things. But I make an effort to understand the thing that I'm using, right? I'm trying to understand the properties of the thing. What does it do? How does it work? What does it function? And it could be the same thing for anything. I think that it's like more, it starts from the intention. Intention is I want to help. I want to make people balanced. I want to help people. What is something for me that does that? A Merkaba, right? Instead of look at this cool shape. Oh, this cool shape has meaning. okay, now I'm gonna bring the meaning into it. You know what I mean? Like, I guess they both work at the end of the day, but it's like maybe one is like a more authentic or pure thing. Maybe they're the same at the end of the day.
I think then maybe what is often my intention when making visuals is for people, it's like kind of bother them, like put pressure on their brain, force them to think more or look twice, you know, to have this kind of chaos going on where if you don't pay attention, you just see a bunch of colors and flows of movement, and they can be nice. But when you start focusing on the details, when you start really looking for a long time, and then you can see how it's evolving.
What is that? Paranoia or paranoia or
Arundel, yes.
You know what I'm talking about? Like when you look at something, you know. What?
When you see faces, or
yeah, when you see faces inside of things, you know, like this aspect, maybe you can infuse, or even just like something as simple as like an optical illusion, or like, you know, those pictures that you look at from like the thing and then all of a sudden it pops out. Maybe there's so now you know your intention. Now you need to find the mechanism for the intention, right? But start from that and then get to that. I think is more valuable because it's you. It's your authentic expression, instead of like, oh, that's cool. How do I make that cool thing have a meaning? You know what I mean? Like, they're both okay. They're both okay. But I think that there's more value when it comes from what you want to, like, what your goal is versus like, you know, because once you know what your goal is, you'll find the cool thing that makes it do it. I think. So yeah, okay. Well, next time we talk, which hopefully will be soon, we'll see where your intention is lying and the extent of the new the new expression of that intention. But again, thank you so much, Innocent, for coming on. It was really lovely to talk to you, and I hope we'll get to see each other soon, in the flesh or digitally. And thanks again for coming on.
I'll be doing an interactive tent at Space Safari, so if you manage to show up there will be a more expanded experience than last time.
Hell yeah. Wow, what an episode. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Mantis Smash for the intro and outro music. Thank you to Sophie Holder for the amazing internship helping us with all the episodes. And thank you to the guests for coming on and spending time with us. See you next week.